Welcome to the Flat Earth Debate, Uncut and After Show. I'm your host Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they premiere, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Speaking of Patrons, I'm going to do a quick shout out to all of you who do support me on Patreon. So a massive shout out of thanks and appreciation to Moon Harvest, Amish Earther, Naughty Thumbnails, Mitch Kennedy, Original D-Rose, Rod, The Name's Burley, Twad Wazzle, Jason Hornsby, Christoph Fournier, Flat Earth Travolta, J Males 24, Unimento, M Iron 26, Endless, Flat Earth Sage, Golden McKiernan, Phoenix Rising 86, Retro Bill, More Books, Canna Bear, Fiber Oats, Bogey, Michael Kahn, John Kays, Patrick Gunnels, Banter, Mel B Styles, Hairy Blade, Mobile Mac 777, Rob W, Reese Pound, Del West Watson, Maria Nealands, Unbelievable Productions, Blue Ridge Ranger, Henrik 86, Abraham Mohammed, Skeptic 936, Life is Short, Texas Mike, Tina Baker, David Wayne Foster, and Dank. So another massive thank you to all of you for supporting me on Patreon. Now I will hand over to whoever is in Discord and Google so you can enjoy their dulcet tones while I set up for today's live show.
The new gentleman who you spoke to about gravity on either Monday or Tuesday.
Again,
and
you
he
spoke...
explained to me that he...
I didn't quite catch the beginning of
Sorry,
that. Did you say you spoke to the guy called Matthew, who was the guy who came in and was a semi-glober? Is that the guy you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay.
And I asked him how he found your show, and he said it was through YouTube's algorithm, and it was a 10 or 15-minute clip from a full show, which is great. Because, yeah, if you think Flat Earth's silly, you're not going to listen to a full show that you're going to want 10 minutes.
All right. So you're saying
for you?
He naturally, in the wild of YouTube, came across a video by us. Wow. How amazing.
Hello. Yeah, he was already looking at videos related in this genre, and then your video was a suggested video to him.
Oh, okay. That's good news.
Yeah, and there's been about 3 or 4 new people who dropped in last night and this morning. They need to get voice verified.
Good. Hello,
how are you anyway? You good?
Me? Oh, excellent, yeah. I'm great. How are you?
Great. Yesterday's show was fire, by the way. Excellent. Well done.
Dave Weiss. yes.
Educational, entertaining.
Really? You liked it that much,
yeah.
huh?
Definitely.
Oh, okay. In that case, I might go back and find out what timestamp we reached and carry on today then.
Sounds good.
I stopped yesterday when I was starting to get a little bit sick of it. So, not completely
yeah, when I
listened
listened to that video about a month ago when it came out, I only made about halfway through it before I had to turn it off. I couldn't,
Oh, that's pretty long.
Before I discovered your channel, I'd listened to David Weiss hours upon a time, and it was David Weiss that shouted at your channel, which led me here. So I'm always grateful to him for that. But now it's getting more and more difficult to listen to him, I'm afraid.
Are you saying you don't like a flat earther to scattergun a glober with globe proof?
Yeah, what's not to like?
That was insane, wasn't it? I couldn't believe it. And then, like, not refuting anything you said. Like, I don't know how that is. How you can even think that.
I'm just starting to think that maybe the anti-FEDers are just trying to copy the trend with the anti-flat earthers, right? The confessional debating style. where in the end it turns out they lose, but don't realize it. Maybe they're copying it. I don't know why though. Why the hell would they do that?
Can you turn your gain down a little bit more, Arwin, on your Yeti?
Do I need to take more distance?
What about distance? Can you turn the gain down a little bit?
Okay, I'll try.
Well, Dave, QE pointed out that Dave realized he was losing because he kept going back to his script.
That's
So-
exactly
How's
correct,
this?
John.
But
Is
carry
this
on.
better?
Yes, it is. It's just when I was editing it yesterday, I took out about a 3-minute clip from it. I think that's all I took out of it. I listened to the entire thing, and I was so. You say you enjoyed it. Obviously, so did I. I listened to the entire thing without giving a thought to what am I going to trim out. I just enjoyed listening to it. So, but there was something I trimmed out. So I'm saying that when I'm actually about to plug something I did trim out. I'm sure I did. What did I trim out? My memory's terrible. Ugh.
So wait, you
Just look
want
in
him
the
to
history.
correct his?
No,
You
it's
want
'cause-
him to correct his gain from back then?
From a different video. That's why. It was from that guy. I think it was. Let's just bring it up. Let's listen to it. This will be going out to members when it airs anyway. So it's currently a members only video. So I'll just stick it out and play for you. Just give me 2 seconds.
Yeah, while you do that, can I just ask Discord? For me, Nathan's coming in really loud, but the panel really quiet. Is that the same for Rayleigh or Roto? Can you let me know? Or is that just me?
Yeah, definitely.
Panel's quiet and I'm loud.
Yes. It's
It's
there in
more
the
that you
background.
sound normal. Discord
Can anybody
sounds
hear me?
fine, but
Yeah, I can hear you.
others don't. Arwin's way down.
Really? I'm
Really?
I hear Arwin fine.
Okay, that's
just to
let me
let
just
you know.
sort that out. Talk amongst yourselves, and I'll see if I can figure that out.
So Arwin, I
Nathan,
didn't know
I'd say
this
you're
time. No
normal.
need to
Cool.
set
I
the
just
question.
started up the pneumatic hammer here. You hear that?
Everybody talking at once.
Well, maybe you don't hear it, but I certainly can hear myself now.
All I can hear is Arwin clipping his mic.
And I can't hear you either.
Well, you're overloading your mic for me.
Sorry, say again?
Just give me a minute, Arwin. I'm trying to concentrate on something else for a second. Ah, okay. Input device and okay, that's why. There it is. Aux output. Can you guys just do a quick sound check from G+?
Okay. Well, can you hear me? Sound good? How's
Yes,
the
much
sound?
better. Thank you.
That fix it?
Okay,
that
I'm
thing-
next. How am I
All
coming
sound
in?
at the same level.
Ah, to clarify exactly what I
You're the fixer.
just need a yes.
What's up,
is,
guys?
Is that fixed? Oh my god.
Yes.
Yeah.
yes,
Thank
sir.
you.
Now it's
Lovely.
perfect.
Yes, brilliant.
So you wiggled it. You wiggled it.
Still not as bad as that video yesterday with all the rumpusing going on back in the early days. Wow. I listened
Yeah.
again yesterday. I was like, whoa. But Nathan explained why that was going on. So
Because everyone was on the same panel.
something like that, man.
Wexy, did you want to add some? Oh, no, just audio noise. Thanks for that. Well, this has been a slightly disjointed start to the show, I've got to admit.
Well, let's get it back on track. Let's talk about how awesome flat Earth debate is. I mean, come on.
Or we could just spend some
You
time
have to
being awesome.
recognize.
Do you want to have a listen to a bit more of Dave and Andrew?
Well, that's why I'm saying why flat Earth debate is so good. Yes, let's listen to that nonsense.
Oh, well, looks like we can't. Why am I not getting this? All my sound settings have weirded themselves out.
Or maybe we could talk about how much the early bird show sucks. Because I didn't even have a show today and nobody even noticed.
I'd offer
I did
loads of
Arwin.
sympathy if I could figure out my audio issues. So.
And I'm totally broke and hungry.
Why did you not have a show?
Because I'm too hungry. It's just, I need funds and not getting them. And, well, that's that.
Well, that's a good conversation killer. I'll send you some money, Arwin.
Yeah, isn't it?
You're supposed to say thank you.
Or maybe people could support me, and I can just keep going again.
If you're going to e-beg, try not to make it as thoroughly depressing as possible, because then people are more inclined to support you. No offense.
I'm sorry, I'm just reflecting how I'm feeling.
Right,
That's all.
I've sent you $10. Go and get something to eat, so you're not miserable and making everyone miserable.
Really?
Well, I'm just saying, it's only $10. It's not like I've broken the bank. Just go and get something to eat.
Thanks. Yeah,
No
I
problem.
will.
Go and do that now, because you're making me miserable. Yeah, support Arwin. Hit him up on PayPal. I'm sure one of the moderators will stick your PayPal link into my chat when this goes out, Arwin. Obviously, there's no one listening currently, so there's not a lot I can do. But hopefully, if you get some... No problem.
I seriously need it.
No problem.
I'm not joking here.
No problem.
So, thanks.
No problem. Just get yourself in a better place. And if you're hungry, I can understand. That makes you miserable. So just go and get something to eat. Anyway, I've stopped sorting out my sound issue now, which is bad because I can't play this video without figuring out why there's no sound from it. But obviously, I'm going to have to forgo that because there's zero conversation to facilitate me looking at it. So I'll just...
no. I thought you were getting ready to make a further point.
No.
I was getting ready to tell Arwin that he needs to get a hype man for his e-bagging. So he's never actually doing the e-bagging. It's the hype man doing the e-bagging for him. So it seems like you're above it. It's kind of a psychological ploy. I see a lot of the bigger YouTubers do it. And
What?
Somebody else coming to talk.
Sorry, I'm gonna get something to eat right now.
It's all on you, Neil. You need to keep this conversation going, my friend. If you don't, I've got to restart the show because I can't get a handle on it.
No, don't restart the show. I want to talk to John. John, since you picked out that video yesterday, what drove you to pick out that particular video when we were reviewing Flat Earth Debate?
Well, it's just I think I wanted to have some empathy for the people that haven't made it as far in their understanding as we had. Like it didn't really work as well as I'd hoped. But I mean, there was definitely some parts where you can look back and say, well, I wouldn't have handled it that way now.
Yeah, I looked at it differently. I thought it was still ace. I mean, a couple of things here and there, but come on, man. It's when you listen to other people debate, it's like, or even just talk about the topic, it's like, what are you talking about? Come and sit over here for about 2 weeks, and maybe you'll get it together.
Well, I think that's like trying to stay to the point, because it seems like so many people talk past each other when they're debating a point. Like with the video yesterday of Dave Weiss, now that guy that was debating Dave, I don't know his name, he seemed to be fairly sticking to the point as best he could, but he just didn't understand the subject. And Dave was not helping with that understanding.
And that's my point. And there was a, to me, listening, that's a deliberate, total deliberate. How can I say this? He deliberately did not break down the black swan,
but I know
the
that
way he could have.
I'm victorious.
Practice this as your whole life, or for as long as you believed in that flat Earth. So I know you're going to have answers for these things, but the times.
It does make me smile when I figure out what the problem is while the show's running. It really does make me proud that I know my stuff. I'm around my own equipment. I'm very pleased with that. Yes.
Own thing is quite hard to get away from. I mean, it only works if you've got the sun on one side and not on the other.
I should really check that it is actually functioning as it should. Can you hear that in Discord? Uh-oh.
Yes, loud and clear.
Oh, thank God. Can you hear it in G+? Neil. Police here in UK. Never around when
Are you asking? We can hear you. Sorry.
It's all right. Go ahead. Can you hear Andrew and...
I was about to say that if the audio is good on my end, I'm just...
Perfect. No, that's all I need. Thank you. That's great. As long as I know it's functioning correctly. I can tell it's going out to the audience or to the recording as it stands because we're not live yet.
The other, that it's dark on one side and not the other.
Do you know that there's more time zones in the outer south of the equator, than there is in the north of the equator?
Well, because they're social constructs. They're made up.
No. Well, that's a good answer, actually. There should be equal lines from north to south as the Earth.
Did he just say north and south of the equator were social constructs? Is that what he just said? I should be paying more attention. It's because it's only just started. I'm just going to have to hear that again. I'm really sorry.
The other, that it's dark on one side and not the other.
Do you know that there's more time zones in the outer south of the equator, than there is in the north of the equator?
Well, because they're social constructs. They're made up.
No.
Time zones. More time zones on the... Maybe I'm just not as frosty as I was yesterday. I'd have to give that a bit of thought. The equator itself is a derivation from a flat plane, but I don't know about the time zones. I'd have to give that a bit of thought. Sorry, go ahead, John.
He's talking about, Brian was talking about there's 22 north of the, God, I've forgotten my lines on the damn globe. There's 22 to one point from the North Pole to the one point, and there's like 28, and then there's 32, giving them that as you move from the North Pole, you're going a flat plane, a circular flat plane, instead of around a sphere.
Okay.
Oh, well, that's a good answer, actually. There should be equal lines from north to south as the Earth spins, and you got your time zones. Okay, but because the Earth is tilted, right? So
again, it's back to the phraseology critique, isn't it? So the Earth's tilted.
Well, he just said that time zones were a social construct, and in a way that's right, but it's supposed to be your solar noon is what the time zone is based off of. So I don't know if where the sun in the sky can be considered a social construct. That just doesn't make sense to me. Maybe I'm wrong.
Good morning. I just want to say you guys had me cracking up on Master B, by the way.
Say that again.
I said the guys had me cracking up in the Master B with the jokes about the
jokes.
the taco intent.
Well, nobody will know that.
Okay, right. There's
Unless
rules.
they're
There's
in
rules.
Master B.
There's rules, D.
What?
Right. No in jokes. If you're going to do that, you've got to preface it. You've got to put the preamble before it, explain what the joke's about, who's involved, what the joke actually is, to get it onto air, because otherwise it's just an in-joke and no one listening understands what you're on about.
Are you on the air? Are you recording?
Always.
Yeah,
If
but
I'm
hold
here,
on,
if you
people
ever see
listening.
me,
Knew that, Nathan.
let me just tell him that as well. He doesn't know.
People
Hello? He doesn't know. Let me
are
just tell him.
listening.
Let me just tell him. That means shut up. If I am here and you see me, I am recording. There is no exception to that. If I am in a Discord server, a G+ server, a Skype call, if you see me online, I am recording. There is no exception to that, D. Do you understand?
Roger that.
Now let
Okay.
me continue.
All right, Neil, Michael.
Always wait a
and
second, D.
Refractive
Listen,
had me
here's the-
cracking
Hold
up.
on, D.
I'm trying to tell you the rule. Always assume Nathan is recording, and you'll be good. I'm trying to help you, baby.
Don't call
Thanks,
him
bro.
baby.
Thanks, bro.
That's sickening.
Thanks, bro. It's just that when y'all be using profanity sometimes, and if Nathan doesn't say anything, I don't know whether you're recording or not. Now, I know 9 a.m. onward Eastern U.S. time, whatever time it is in UK, I know he's recording, but I don't know about prior to that. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, you didn't listen to what I said. Whenever you see him, always assume
Always.
he's recording.
Always
You
assume
see
I'm recording.
Nathan, he's recording.
Normally,
Well, anyway,
you are more likely.
Anyway, I post.
You're more likely to get a disclaimer that I'm not recording in very, very, very rare circumstances. But that's when I'll disclaim. Actually, lads, I'm not recording at the moment. Feel free to slag off Brian. It's something like that, or something, around that sort.
Roger that. Gotcha. Anyway, to elaborate, I had posted a Prime Video movie about one of those hidden figures, ethnical, political, tear-jerking, emotionalism, type of movies where this farm boy Mexican who dreams of being an astronaut, and he finally joins NASA and he goes to space, So then I get all these responses from Refractive and Michael and everything. It was intent. It was hilarious. You just got to look at the Master B and look at it. They got all these memes and stuff like that, just to add to the absurdity of how they do these things. And so if you laugh at it, once again, you're walking on eggshells, because then you're, if it's a true story or not, or based on a true story, then you're kind of being disrespectful to the, to the achievements of a Mexican American who joins one of the greatest organizations and does the feat that any man would die to do, blah, 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 like they do everything else. So
Perfect. I can feel the relief washing over me as you preface everything perfectly for the audience. Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
Now it's not an in-joke. It's not just you referring to something you've had a chat with someone else about that the audience doesn't understand. It's like a cardinal sin in theatre. Not that we're in theatre, but this is a production, so rules apply.
Oh, speaking of theater, Nathan, I got an extra question. When you're in the theater, all right, you're in the back of the theater, what do you call that? Stage right or stage left, or house right or house left? How does it go again?
You're asking me about the theatre or the stage itself?
Well, because when I do carpet and theaters, like, you got to communicate with people, and they say, in other words, if you're standing on a stage looking out and you want something from the back, you tell them
Upstage.
house right or house left, vice versa. When you're
Okay, it's from the point of view of the performer. So if you're talking about the stage itself, upstage would be walking backwards towards the back of the stage, further away from the audience. That's upstage. So the way to remember that is upstaging somebody means pulling funny faces behind them where they can't see you. That's upstaging somebody. You ever heard that expression? Stage left is the performer's left. Stage right is the performer's right. Easy.
So what's
yeah,
back?
that's easy,
So
but
what's-
not when you got to go house left, house right, because when you're standing outside of, but where the seats are, it gets very confusing.
Well, that's house. That's the house as opposed to the stage.
Yeah, that's somebody communicating from the stage to the people out in the audience, telling the person where they want the lights, house right, house left. And vice versa. If you're on the stage and you're the performer and other people on the stage with you, they communicate the way Nathan just explained it.
Okay, so I'm the actor in the theater, and I'm looking out at the audience, and I want to address somebody on my right hand side in the theaters. I say house right.
You could do. Yeah.
I think you're wrong because
doesn't really.
you gotta make yourself be looking
Okay.
at me. So I would have to say house left.
You're ignoring the significance of this. House left and house right is important to people who might want to bring up the house lights in a particular area of the stage or the theatre itself, right? That's important to technical. That's all it's important to. You as an who cares? As for the stage left, stage right, that's important to the performer. If he needs to know that he's going to exit stage left, he needs to know which one that is, doesn't he?
Neil doesn't perform.
Oh, I do perform.
But it doesn't matter which way you get out of the theatre. No offence. Hopefully you'll get lost and buy something from the gift shop.
He's a medicine, and I work in theaters doing flooring when they're under construction, but you still got to go by the rules, and you got to exit things. And I'm always asking, house left? And they, well, what do you tell me, house left? It's on the other side. So it always confused the shit out of me.
Yeah, but it's because you don't need to, as a carpenter, use those terms. Those terms are for the people running the house, the technical staff, and the people on the stage, the performers. That terminology is only relevant to those individuals, not you as a carpenter doing the floor.
Contraire. That's the way they do it. It's all union in the city, and if you don't tell them house right, house left, stage right, stage left, you ain't getting what you need.
Well, no, then it is relevant because they're different. And if you're doing the floor on the house and you say house left, and then you carry on the floor because there happens to be no dividing line between the stage and the house, like a studio theatre, then it's critical to know which one's which because there's a transition point. So, yeah, in that respect, I take it all back. It's critically important that you understand it in certain circumstances because otherwise you'll continue being on house left when you get on stage and you need to reorientate yourself facing the other direction for your left to be correct.
Well, this reminds me of the antipodal star rotation argument. Like the stars turn in one direction, but when I turn around, they're going in the other. I'm kind of getting that feel from this conversation.
Yes, that's exactly, yep.
That's why I brought it up. Come on, guys.
Okay. That was me thinking you were being far more profound, saying, metaphorically, all the world's a stage.
Yeah, that too.
I didn't mean to kill the conversation with that, but are people still making the just turn around and see the stars reverse direction argument?
Yes.
I was just going to tell you they are. Yes.
I'm pretty sure Dave Farina Chow is still not catching on to that. It's a big professor.
It was only in the last couple of years, because they came here and got annihilated, that the high-profile Globers stopped claiming that. And there's a good chance they only stopped claiming it here so that we couldn't rip it apart, but they're probably still out on the circuit doing it exactly as they did. JLB actually gets the mick taken out of him because he was the last, I don't want to say high-profile, but someone of note that came here and argued that. And I've verified this with him, right, in his chat, like not on a phone call or anything. He still doesn't understand the argument.
I'm just glad for several reasons, but for one reason why I'm not a Glober. Because if I was a Glober and I had to put up with the rating that these guys go through, I'd end up committing suicide.
You shouldn't say that. There's several people who have, and the testimony of the people around them on the Globe side was that they were horrendously bullied prior to it happening. So, as far as I'm aware, from what I hear on the grapevine, I've not, other than being in Globe Discord servers where I was treated appallingly, but that was because I was a flat earther, or so I assumed. Whereas as it transpires, no, there's an entirely toxic community in the anti-flat earth realm that are more than content to bully the crap out of each other and harass each other. And in other words, there's no honor amongst thieves.
I was being figurative, though. I would never take it that personally. It would be humiliated, not to the point where I would hurt myself. I mean, I'd be like, I don't give a damn if it's curvature or flat. You're all assholes. Click and hang up on you.
Sure, but like I say, from what I understand on the grapevine, no, there's an entirely toxic community of anti-flat earthers out there, and we might be subject to a higher degree of their vitriol, but that doesn't mean it's exclusively aimed at us. It's also internal for them, also.
Extremely internal. Just from what I remember, as long as you're going along, you get along. The moment you ask a question, you're worse than any flat earther. It's like the entire pack will pounce upon you.
Wow. How do you same as me, presumably, you just heard that on the grapevine?
No, I experienced it once.
You know, it's amazing though how people don't understand that what Refractive said about the movement of the celestial bodies from facing north, facing south, is that even if you gave a demonstration and you put a spinning wheel and have it in the middle of a room and told people, had on a wall or wherever, and you had people standing looking at it and they see it spinning clockwise, and if they would just, the other people would do, then you just stand in front of it and turn around and look at it on the other side of it, it's going to be, if you had some type of kaleidoscope or some type of ball that spun light that would go across your ceiling, lights going counterclockwise across your ceiling from one side of the room to the other, and you turned around and looked at them, it's just quite obvious that facing one way, it would go counter, and facing the other way, it would go clockwise. So I'm not understanding why they don't, kind of adhere to that and comprehend that. Or they don't want to because they want to, they want to push their narrative. I don't get it.
Well, what it is they have the celestial sphere model, which has two antipodal points of rotation within the stars. They don't understand that that's a flat Earth model. They reify it, then claim it's their model, and then they ask us why this model, which is they believe is theirs, has 2 points of rotation.
Now we are joined by Arwin, Neil, Refracted Curvature, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, so welcome one and all.
Hello.
Yo. Let's get it going.
Let's get it going.
Hello.
We shall endeavour to do so, Neil. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Negative.
They don't need those. They never actually apply it. They don't need it.
Who's they?
Astrophysicists and astronomers and all that.
Ah, so they're pseudoscientists, in other words.
Well, within their field, you could think of them as pseudoscientists. I mean, they could still do science, but they just don't.
Well, they give you stuff like orbital mechanics and distance extrapolations and calculations. So any evidence of the distance to the sun?
I hear radar can do it.
Well, they're gonna land on it pretty soon, I've heard, from India. We could all trust that, right?
Well,
Makes sense.
They'd have to get the distance to the sun to know how far it's going to be to travel to it. So that being the case, how are they going to measure it, John? Did you say you mentioned something about it a second ago? I vaguely heard.
Yeah, you get your radar and you angle it toward. Sorry, I fed back through somebody. You get your radar, you angle it towards the sun, you shoot your radar, you measure the return signal, and Bob's your uncle. You got a distance.
Indeedy weedy. Now, by popular demand, well, I've only done a couple of housekeeping questions, which is what we do when we're in the middle of responding to a video. We're going to carry on as we did yesterday with Andrew Gold and Dave Weiss. Now, I didn't do this at the beginning of yesterday's show. For some reason, YouTube have rearranged it so that the comments are above the description now, so I just neglected to do this, but I'm going to do it now straight off the bat. So go and let Andrew Gold know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, so that he is aware that we responded to his debate with David Weiss. So this is on the Andrew Gold YouTube channel. There's a link going by in the live stream chat right now, so that you can, as I say, let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. And hopefully he will respond by putting my link into his video, should he make one, and offer up some YouTube love where YouTube themselves do not. So that's the selfish motivation behind doing it. But leave him a comment, drop him a like, let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. So let's get back into it. If you want to see what we've got up to already, check out yesterday's live stream. Go ahead.
You let me get away with the cardinal sin. I claimed radar proves a distance to the sun, and I threw in like an answer they would get why that destroys their argument.
Well, they need a flat plane
to somebody new.
They'll need a flat plane
for the angle. Yeah.
For the angle, yeah. So but you go through it. Go ahead.
Oh yeah. To measure the angle, or the return angle, or the return signal, you need a plane of reference, and a sphere has no plane of reference.
You're going to need a flat Earth for that return angle measurement from a plane of reference.
Why do you need a plane of reference?
But hold on, the globe model is already using a flat plane, so that's accounted for, John.
Not really. It's in the middle of it. Sorry, you said John. My bad.
Right. To measure the angle, you need a plane of reference. There is no plane of reference on a sphere.
Why?
Because it's spherical?
Because it's, yeah.
No, why do you need it to measure it? Why? Why does it have to be flat?
You guys don't get it. They're already using a flat plane for their globe model, so it's already accounted for.
We get that. Okay, yes, let's just acknowledge what Arwin's saying so he doesn't keep interrupting with it. Okay, yes, you're talking about the celestial plane, right? Or whatever it's called. Equatorial, my bad. The equatorial plane.
Right.
Okay, fine. Yeah, inside a sphere. But that's not what Neil is responding to John with. He's saying, why do they need a flat plane to do radar? There you go. I phrased it in such a way to leave it open for you to explain it to Neil. Refractive curvature. Go ahead.
Right, because the baseline, how you'll know what your angle is, how your angle will be defined, must be a straight line as well as that straight line that you're going to draw to whatever object you're shooting your radar at. So 45 degrees above the plane of reference. It has to be a plane of reference. Even in orbital mechanics, it's a plane of reference is how the ground you're standing on is referred to.
So it can't be done on a spherical surface.
No.
I understand.
All roads lead to a flat Earth, Neil. Earth is flat. That's how it's measured. In order to infer a sphere, you're first going to start by measuring the ground that you're actually dealing with. The extrapolations thereafter will infer a sphere, but all roads lead to a flat Earth. The origin will always be a flat plane.
Yeah, I kind of figured because I'm thinking of it trying to get a signal off something that's round like a basketball. It wouldn't work. So
No.
I just need a little more explaining.
No. The signal that's coming out from the radar, right? You're angling that with respect to the horizon, let's just say, so that you can think back on how celestial navigation's done, right? You're establishing a plane of reference when you look at the horizon, and then you're describing an angle that you're measuring the star at. Well, it's the same for radar. It's going to be at an angle.
And the radar can't come off a sphere.
So the radar itself, the way it's described, the mathematics of the returned signal is in respect to the plane of reference.
They're screwed.
Yeah, you need a flat Earth. That's right, Neil. It's not that they're screwed. It's just that the Western world's under the misapprehension through, I don't know if it's political in nature or what. Presumably, as we would disseminate this, is a method of control and nothing more. Therefore, well, what actually controls the whys and wherefores of everyday life, well, the government controls that, doesn't it? So therefore, in the same way you've got various other sort of government-led movements that aren't in line with science, let's say, or let's keep it away from science, let's say medicine. If you take things like LGBTQ, there's a very severe disconnect between what the political ideology of that movement or group is versus the medical understanding of what defines certain attributes of people. So those two things are very much divided, but you can then categorize it and say, right, well, which one is which? Well, this one, let's not mention which one so I don't get in trouble in case I badly phrase something, is political in nature. Yeah? Therefore, exercising a methodology of controlling you. This one is just reality. And when you transpose that into ball earth, you go, what's the point? Why are we lied to? Why would they lie? Who's lying? Okay, well, this is a religious idea perpetuated through society, through the government control network that we have as our society in inverted commas. Therefore, it's a political idea to believe in the sphere. The actual methodology of measuring Earth as a flat plane has never changed. It's always been the same. But this political idea has permeated through society to control them. There is no other reason as far as I can ascertain. I'm saying that so that I can offer it up to the panel and maybe Discord, or maybe even the chat, keep an eye on it, to say, can you see any other reason? As half the time we're justifying why we won't answer the question, why would they lie?
Hold on.
Well,
That's why I say they're screwed. Because how long do you think that they're going to be able to keep this?
well, there's also the begging the question part of the why would they lie infers that they are lying, right? When you ask why they're lying, it's almost a part of humanity that wants to think that these people know what they're doing, they're smart, they're in control, they understand it completely, and there is the possibility that they are just wrong and as dumb as the rest of everyone else.
In other words,
They-
okay, let me just hold on. I'll just
Excuse
boil
me.
these down each as they come, right? So you're saying if the public were to perceive these people who are in control and very smart and know what they're doing as just being as dumb as they are, then their trust and faith in the people who control them would be relinquished, and therefore the people who control them could no longer control them. Ergo, a methodology of control.
Yeah, but I don't think it's one that would be exercised knowingly.
Fair enough. I
By
see
the
that. That's, I
individual.
don't need to drop that in. I should just concede that point. I've phrased it how they phrase it to us. The people who come newbie flat earthers, why would they lie? Right, that's what they are. They're at the gates, they're knocking on the door, and they're asking the wrong question to get in. Why would they lie? No, that's not how we would phrase it. So, yeah, they're not necessarily lying at all. It's unwitting. They don't know that they're telling you that the engineer at NASA who's definitely produced something high tech and tested it to the nth degree, so he knows it's perfectly suitable to travel to Narnia. He just doesn't know it's going to Narnia, or more obviously not going to Narnia. Narnia being space, in case you hadn't figured that out. All right, who's next? Thanks, John. Oh, refractive curvature. Anybody else?
I said, how long do you think they're going to keep it? They're screwed. They can't
and
keep
speak-
this too much longer.
Yeah, they can.
And may I
Keeping it
add?
since 2000. They keep it. They will keep it.
They will keep it.
No way.
But
Look at the way the
but Nathan-
information has gone out.
But Nathan, your metaphor was perfect, because that's exactly what it is. The same thing you just said about that alphabet community with the globe. It is a belief. It is an ideology. No matter how much scientific, biological, hormonal evidence that there is that debunks their claim that I am a man when I have male genitals or whatever, the vice versa, and all these other transhumanism claims of being this, I'm half wolf and all of this, so you'd be surprised what you hear, as well as all of the failed evidence and scientific and physics proof that there is no curve, they're measurable, there is no curve, everything that they claim has been debunked. They're still going to stand on it. They're still going to hold that sword and swing it as much as they can. There's nothing you can do about it because it's a belief and ideology. And as long as the government, whether it's inadvertent, intentional, passionate, empathetic, supports that ideology, because we have the right to believe what we want to believe in the United States or whatever other nation that believes that way, it will survive, Neil. You will never stop it, because even when it's proven to be wrong, you cannot stop people from believing what they want to believe. That's it.
That's right.
Shout out to Marco Knows It's God. He says, quote, "Watch out for the gypsies," end quote. Neil Constantino. Oh, it's Neil. Yeah. When did you say that? Watch out for the gypsies. Okay, thank you for the super chat. Really appreciate it.
Speaking of that,
I heard my name mentioned.
Speaking of that, gypsies is nothing but a term that came from Egyptians of refuge, just to let you know, or people from the Egyptian area or from a Pacific tribe who were considered the gypsies. They were refuge. They were like settlers. They settled everywhere. So just to let you know, that's where the gypsy come from. To take the E off, Egyptian, gypsy.
Right, and all ramblers are descendants of Rambo.
What the hell are you talking about, D-Rose?
Bruh, look it up.
That's exactly what I would say.
Look up the history. Look up the history of the Huguenots. Look up the history of the gypsies, and they're all the same people. They're the people that came from the East back in the day who were refuge. They were seeking refuge.
You know how much we love a good baseless assertion. You look it up, son. Okay, right, let's go on. We'll do a bit more of Dave Weiss and Andrew Gold.
Have from top to bottom, everyone has the same time along this line. But the problem is, if I could find the right picture, where is it? So you got your time zones here, but the Earth is tilted. And if it's tilted, there would be different times everywhere. Now you could argue, well, it's an hour and a half here.
Sure.
Newfoundland is this and that.
Shout out to him's sake. He says, "How's it going? Thank you for the support."
Okay. The sky is a perfect clock. And when I say that, it is the only perfect clock. The best watch in the world, best timepiece in the world. Guess what it's basing its time on? It's basing...
No, you've got that the wrong way around. So the way we have derived time is by way of the movements of the celestial objects, not the other way around, just to make that clear. When you say it's the perfect clock, no, we got clocks from it, not the other way around.
It on the sky clock. So wherever the sun is, and I don't know if you can see this, it's noon where the sun is, from a straight line from the center all...
Where the sun is, again, just a minor tweak to your terminology, would be the sun's GP, the position above the land of the sun at a given time. Know these arguments, so he doesn't know the correct terminology to use. Where the sun is implies you know where the sun is. What's the sun, Dave, for you to know where it is? You don't. What you know is its ground position, where it's above at a particular time.
If you had an app called the Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Flat Earth app, and you're claiming that as the model of Earth, then you're kind of doing that, aren't you?
Yeah, in his model, he's got a little sun that goes round. Therefore, he's saying that's how far away the sun is. It's got to have a distance. It's an object in his model. Yes.
All the way out along the hour hand, that's where it's noon. So it's noon in Sydney, Australia right now, and it's midnight over here on the east coast of the United States. And so I can wait until the sun goes over an area, like, oh, look, it's right over South Africa. And I can call my friend up and say, where's the sun and what time is it? He goes, it's directly above me. It's noon. Then I could wait until later and it's over in South America or over Australia, call the person up, and then anybody can do this. And they'll say the sun's right over me and it's noon, right? And so that's how time zones work. Time zones. The sun is the hour hand. It shows the hours and the days, right? If we turn it laps the moon, watch. Right now, you don't see the moon because it's a new moon, but you'll watch. It's getting away from the moon, and the moon will be dragging behind it. It laps the moon every 28, 29 days. So here it comes.
So that explains eclipses.
Yeah, well, yes and
Okay, so immediately you spotted how this could be a problem.
no. It definitely has to do with the moon. But you see the moon? So it'll lap it. So the moon keeps track of the weeks and the months. There used to be 28 day months.
Did you just entirely ignore Andrew?
Yeah,
And with one
he did.
extra
He
day,
had
one
that
reset
continued on the script.
day, right? And then if I turn the stars on, where are the stars? If I turn the stars on, the stars are going slightly faster than the sun. So the sun will drift back through each zodiac for about a month, and it takes 365 times around before the stars will lap the sun. Okay? Dave, remember that? Not Dave. There we go. I'm just calling you Dave. The spiral model of the Earth, the heliocentric model, we're traveling 4.4 billion miles a year, never to return to where we were before.
Is that it? Where did the flat earth proof come in for that? So in terms of how you establish your position, you can utilize the sun and you can measure it and look it up in the almanac, figure out where it is above and all those sorts of things. So based on that, you can describe how elevation angle measurements work and how a flat plane would be required and how the sun and its position at a given time of day can be used to plot out your position with angles off a flat earth. But there's no transition to this being a flat earth proof. And in terms of lining up how these things look on a clock, that's where they're derived from. So this is no surprise.
Well, he did make a claim about a model, right? Because he's presenting this model, and the Andrew Gold, I believe is his name, asked a pertinent question if this explains eclipses, and it's thrown a monkey wrench into his model that he's not addressed. So if anything, it seems as if flat Earth has been debunked from Andrew Gold's perspective. Dave is just now speaking past it.
Tonight and take a picture of the stars and put a note in your calendar to do the same thing, same place, same time, same day next year. Every single star will be in the exact same place. That's impossible in a heliocentric model. It shows that the stars are fixed in the sky. They never change, right? There's a shaft in the pyramid that looks up at Polaris, but they tell us, oh, no, it used to look at Thuban 2,000 years ago, and it just happens to be looking at Polaris. Well, we had here in the United States, you know about the Georgia Guidestones?
No.
You know about the Georgia Guidestones? It's a monument that was put up in 1981, I think.
Anybody mind if I spin past this? No?
No, there's
Oh, I want to hear every second of this. This is beautiful. Oh, why speculation? I love it.
Well, it was up for 40 years and it still hadn't moved. A half a degree would knock it out. Half a degree, I think, is like 1.5 widths of the.
Just to summarise what I spanned through, there's a hole, or was before they got blown up, in the Georgia Guidestones that you can look through and see Polaris. Okay, there you go.
The moon or something like that.
A half a degree. It's interesting that they have that in the half a degree measurement from the baseline of using the Georgia Guidestones as if they're a protractor. But what do you need your baseline to be?
Flat.
Okay, it was still there. So you know what they did? They blew it up and they blamed it on a terrorist. Oh!
Again, what John's just pointed out is a wasted opportunity to derive a flat Earth from the construction of the Georgia Guidestones in terms of the methodology that also leads back to a flat Earth. Right, John? Refractive curvature?
Yes. Yeah. It was there in his hands.
Well, I mean, can you blame him? Can you blame him? Because Dave...
Who's him? Who's him? Who's him? Who's him? Who's him?
Hello?
Who's him?
No, Dave. Can you blame Dave? Because like the song says, if you don't know, you'll never know. I mean, he doesn't know this. He doesn't want to listen to you, Nathan. If he would sit down and be an adult and listen to you, he would be able to say these things and catch these ways and these open doors to be able to go through with that counter. But he doesn't listen to you. He wants to run his script like you said. He has a program.
Darn it, just when it's proving the Earth is stationary, they blew it up. And you know what's funny? This is a national monument. It was blown up same day. Bulldozers were there to knock the rest down to protect the public.
Yeah.
And
All right.
take
Wait.
it all away.
Okay. You've gone too far into the weeds with this one, but let me ask you another one. How does GPS work in your theory?
The ground positioning system is very simple. It's tower.
Okay. This he's got to get a win with. GPS is a Cartesian system. It's flat. Okay? It's also based on the same system that would eventually turn into it from the stars. It's all based on the same system. So a flat Earth is absolutely required for GPS. This has got to be a win. Come on, Dave, you can do it. We're rooting for you. Let's see what he's got.
Tower to tower.
So
towers are on the.
Go ahead, Arwin.
I was just going to say, he is going to figure out a way to screw it up. Once he gets going with the screwing up, he doesn't know how to stop.
I think there's an easy win here. Well, okay, we'll see, Arwin. You have to apologise if not.
The ground.
He ain't going to do it.
And the tower's on the ground, and they literally triangulate from one tower to the other, and that's it. So wherever you are, one tower sends out a signal, and it locates you, and another tower finds you and puts you on a circle, and the third tower finds you and puts you exactly where you are. The problem with GPS is it doesn't work in the middle of the ocean. It doesn't work in the middle of the Amazon.
How does that prove it's flat? Is triangulation the correct term? Hold on a second. Just one sec. Is he correct in his terminology?
Say triangulate.
Let's try a third time. Is triangulation the correct term, first and foremost? For GPS, would it not be...
No, it's not. Triangulation.
I was going to say, would it not be trilateration? We're all now leaving silence. I'll try and ask the question. Hopefully someone who knows the answer will just say yes or no, rather than leaving a giant pause. This hasn't been the best show since the pre-show, I've got to be honest, audience. Sorry about this. Let's try that again, panel. Is the term Dave WEISS used, triangulation, correct for this specifically? That's GPS. Is it actually...
No.
Okay,
No.
perfect. What?
Eli did answer. He said no.
No, it's incorrect. So the term would be trilateration for GPS, would it not? You've got known distances already.
That's what I heard.
Yes, because you're measuring a time lapse of a return signal that will give you a distance, and then you're drawing your circle out with that distance.
And finally we get there. Thank you, God, for refracted curvature. And that circle that you draw out based on the trilateration from these signals and their return timings. Well, what kind of surface would you have to draw that out on, John?
Well, a radius is always a flat, straight line. So the surface would have to conform to that geometry.
So it'd have to be a flat surface. And in terms of how these points are plotted out in the GPS Cartesian grid, that's also flat. So it's flat in terms of how it works mathematically. It's flat in terms of how the land is referenced. Correct?
Yes.
Yes.
But what's that? Let's just contrast that flat Earth stone cold proof with the workings of GPS with it don't work out in the desert. That proves what? The sufficient nature of the GPS towers that you say it works with? How does that disprove a globe? Doesn't. How does it disprove satellites? All right, that's where he's going with this. So therefore, we haven't got satellites orbiting for the global positioning system. Yeah, half the actual GPS services out there will disclaim that to you themselves.
Amazon, it doesn't work in the Southern Ocean, it doesn't work in Antarctica.
Okay,
why?
But here's
doesn't work in Antarctica. How do you know? According to David, we weren't able to go there, but now he knows that the GPS doesn't work down there. How do you know that?
Here's what I think is a key problem with the whole.
The key problem I see, Andrew, is that he could have proved the flat Earth with how the system actually functions. That's what he could have done and didn't. Instead, highlighted the inabilities of the network itself and the shortcomings of the network. Nobody gives a crap how GPS fails in certain locations. We just want to know how it proves Earth's flat. Well, this proves the notion of orbital mechanics or globe in global positioning system. That would be something that would be useful for the people on the fence maybe listening to this, if they understood that GPS requires Earth to be flat. That might be helpful to them, Dave.
Whole theory for me is it's not using the science. It's going back to the very.
Go on.
I just wanted to say, and we did highlight the initial error he did, because you did specify the difference between trilateration and triangle, right? So he didn't another Glober or somebody else, y'all made a big uproar about somebody doing that before, and that's one of the reasons why they didn't understand GPS, because they were saying the wrong term, and Dave's using the same wrong term, triangulation versus trilateration.
Well, so do we, and so do the. Sometimes it's excusable and sometimes it's not right. So if you go through the manuals that 10th Band presents to us, often they use the term triangulation. And sometimes we'll, depending on who we're talking to, go along with it, and sometimes we won't, right? Which is a bit discriminatory. But let me just explain. Adam's the best at doing this, because Adam will be the first to jump on the opponent in the debate and go, no, this isn't triangulation, it's celestial navigation. We're not using the triangle to calculate the height. Let's just focus on the height one, because that's the one where it's most obvious. We point out, well, no, we're not using the triangle to get the height. We're deriving the distance from the angle. That's got a title. It's celestial navigation, as opposed to triangulation. Now, just through vocab, I'll often myself say, well, we're triangulating our position. Well, we're not. That's wrong. We're utilising the methodology of celestial navigation. But in this instance, it's neither. We're talking about trilateration because it's GPS. But that so at some point we've clarified this. Now, it's actually QE that highlighted this to us only recently. We're like, you've got to be careful with your language. You're using this word incorrectly. And we're like, yeah, but it says it in the reference. You know, yeah, the reference is wrong too. So there you go. So just so that's on the record.
Right, but just so everybody knows, it's forgivable if you're a flat earther, because all three require a flat plane to operate.
You were there in that conversation, weren't you, John? I remember you saying that when we had that conversation.
So is it still trigonometry, or is it
not
like...
necessarily? No, that's I should have dropped that in, right? Well done. Yeah, that should have been there too. No, not necessarily. You might be doing trig, but no. If you're using the stars to find your position, you're not using trig. No.
Right.
You're using celestial navigation. Sorry. The method is called. We say it like it's the title of the book. No. It is the method that's being employed. The method isn't triangulation. It isn't trilateration. It isn't trigonometry. It is celestial navigation. Self-contained, a thing all on its own, devoid, not those other things. Now, those other things may have similarities, things in common with celestial navigation, but they aren't celestial navigation, and celestial navigation is not those things. Are we all clear?
Yeah.
Roll into the, I don't know, some mean flat earther that wants to show how wrong we are as a flat earther on our own side. We'll go back and say, look, he said trilateration here when he meant triangulation. Yeah, whatever. Anyway.
And their commonality is a flat surface.
Yes, that's the main thank you also, D. Eli and D saving my skin. Yeah, the main overriding point here is, regardless of which methodology you're describing, trig, trilateration, triangulation, or celestial navigation, you're going to need a flat plane for all of them. Yes.
When I said to you, you've gone blurry, by the way, out of
sorry.
whatever it's happened.
What's going on there?
Yeah, but I said to you, the problem with this for me is that too many people would have to be lying to us or whatever, and you said no.
Yeah, we covered that as an appeal to consensus fallacy.
No, a lot of them are just believing what's told to them from above.
Yes, you believe what you're told from above, and it's terrifying to you that they might be wrong because you only defer to them because you're not an expert in any of these things, according to your own words. Therefore, you're on your own should you be shown to be in bad faith with the people you trusted.
But there are plenty of people involved in the manufacturing of things like GPS that involve, as far as they know, the people constructing it, at least 24 satellites orbiting Earth, satellites distributed in such a way that any given time from any point on Earth, at least 4 of them should be visible in the sky.
Really? Well, you don't understand how GPS works. Go and have an actual bit of research in terms of the technology and how it actually functions. The people who actually produce the stuff will tell you themselves that it's using transmitters on the ground, transceivers on the ground. Is it transceivers? No, it'd just be transmitters, wouldn't you? You're only receiving the signal from it. Anyway, the towers are what is used, and they'll happily disclaim that to you. Now, while they might allude to there being a certain number of satellites, we can just debunk the certain number of satellites they may allude to by saying that, no, you can't have a second law of thermodynamics violation orbiting motion when the orbiting motion has been derived from a whole string of assumptions we covered yesterday that are all derived from a flat plane. Well, if you've got a flat plane to start inferring through calculations that you've got something to orbit, you haven't. You've got a flat plane. Further to that, once I let Adam in, the orbit itself takes place in a second law of thermodynamics violation sky vacuum. So if these satellites can happily fall around in space, then the gas we're breathing can also vacate the area of volume that we are occupying and enter the area of volume that's the same volume of space. It's all the same volume. So we'd all be dead. We'd have no gas to breathe. In this picture that's next to Dave Weiss, you've got all the orbiting satellites. Yeah, well, this area of black is a 10 to the minus 17 torr vacuum in this cartoon of Earth. And in that cartoon of Earth, you'd have gas at high pressure vacating the area that it has to occupy when you say it's containing us. It isn't, by the way, Andrew. That's absurd. What it would do is fall in line with entropic law and disperse into the area of volume it has to fill. It's natural law.
That's how they've set up GPS to work. So
is it? So offer your research in terms of what you've done for GPS and how it works. You have no idea. This baseless assertion shit will not stand, Andrew. Will you offer all your references for how you've researched the inner workings of GPS? If you did, you'd know it was Cartesian and requires a flat plane. But you're saying you've looked into it and therefore you know the satellites in existence. In Narnia, a sky vacuum that violates the second law of thermodynamics. Yeah, we know you're bullshitting, Andrew. Now, your opponent across the desk from you does not know you're bullshitting.
It's not just like the government who are trying to hide God from us or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Well, there's a massive non sequitur.
It would also have to be all the people involved in the manufacturing of GPS. It would have to be all...
Would it? They all operate their functioning system on a Cartesian flat Earth grid system. Well, they've all got to be lying. No, we'd affirm that they are actually proving a flat Earth when the grid itself is flat. You've got flat Earth in that system with reference to sea level and the stars and all the angles. That's how it was all created. Off a flat plane. So no, we don't need to decry the engineers who created GPS like you're doing on our behalf, Andrew. They'd all have to be lying. No, they'd all have to be proving a flat Earth.
All the people involved in countless other kinds of navigational systems.
Wrong, absolutely not. So people, when the Apollo missions went off, they had like 2,000 or a ridiculous number of companies that were all making different parts. So everybody could say, my grandfather worked on it. I sent the hinge, I sent the seat, I sent the dial, I sent the door lock, right? The NASA, they never start going to space. It's people that build satellites send them to NASA. NASA says they put them up in space. In reality, they're using balloons and aircraft as satellites, right? NASA is the largest consumer of helium in the world. They actually...
Yeah, in reality, outer space, the place they claim to send these things, is not real. Why, you ask, Andrew Gold? Well, because the sky vacuum is 10 to the minus 17 torr, and we are breathing high-pressure gas. You know what high-pressure gas does? It expands in all directions to fill whatever volume it's got to fill. It's a natural law. Yeah, it's called the second law of thermodynamics. An inviolable law of nature, never to be defied. Your gas fills space. And what do you know? Your sky vacuum, where these orbiting satellites are claimed to be, is even called space. Your gas would fill that space. We'd all be dead. Not, well, what about the men in NASA who say they've made this? No. It doesn't matter whether or not they've made a technology. They might believe they've made a technology. I'm sure they have made this technology to send into Narnia. Now, that's the only bit that Dave's got right here. Doesn't mean they're sending it to space, but he needs to preface that, or indeed conclude with the fact that they can't be sending it to space because space is not real.
actually own all of the major helium
Hold on,
companies in the
Nathan.
world.
I just wanted to David basically just didn't respond to anything that the guy said. He didn't take it down and then just red herringed it with just a bunch of other stuff. It's like, let's move on. So it's almost like he sort of like conceded that he didn't know how to respond to that.
It's half answers, Arwin. I just heard that and I thought, brilliant, he's going to go and give a really good response to, are they all lying? And he talks about people making a hinge in a bracket, this part, that part. Are those people lying? No. Everything they do is genuine. There's no deception on their behalf. Does it mean that that bracket's going to space? No. And I thought he was going to make that point, which I think addresses what Andrew was saying, which is to mean it has to be true. Otherwise, everybody is in on the grift. And I think, again, you see, he makes half the point, and like yesterday with nearly getting the black swan out, he gets there and then he distracts himself with another point.
Right.
But I thought he was about to answer that. Yeah.
But that makes it so useless. I mean, it's like he doesn't actually address the point. He doesn't tackle the issues. He just keeps moving on.
And they admit that they put up thousands.
Hey, Chocolate.
Football stadiums, okay, that carry 8,000-pound satellites. They're putting them up all the time, and they're using the satellites and a mesh network of the airplanes to create the GPS that you need or for the communications. But I think that most of the GPS is done with ground towers. People go, what about my cell phone? 99% of the world communications are done with undersea cables, okay, and towers.
Right.
People that work for satellite companies that set up the dishes. I just interviewed a dish pro, a guy that
Get at them.
Again, frustration. I mean, I know you just kind of told him, but we're going to discuss GPS. You thinking that most of it's done by ground-based towers is kind of irrelevant unless you're going to cite it. This is an easy win. Describe what GPS is, what system it uses. As you said earlier, it's Cartesian-based. You put that to this guy who's a smart ass who thinks that just because everybody in Garmin company isn't in on the lie, it has to be true. Demonstrating to look at his thing that he's citing, GPS, what does it demonstrate fundamentally? What is it set upon? It's set on a flat-based Earth. Yeah, all its measurements are utilized from that Cartesian grid. Just get him to accept that point. So to him then to tell them how you wrap it around a ball or where the measurements are taken from, which frankly makes no difference, does it? Whether they're land-based or whatever, it doesn't affect what you're navigating across. What you're navigating across and the way in which the calculation is done is a flat plane. That's the point he needs demonstrating about GPS.
Works on the towers. He says they never point them up at the sky. They always point them at the horizon. They always point them at the closest tower. They're pointing them sideways. Right. Okay.
So just anything that uses anything like satellite, cable, not cable, but like Sky, like television, phone, all these things, you're suggesting is so compartmentalized that there are sort of these 100%. Evil, nefarious people at the top, and they're not letting. I mean, it's just in every country around the world.
No, that's your inference from what he said, that there's some nefarious hidden hand. I mean, this is very telling. This is what Andrew Gold fears.
Well, because remember, there is a habit among some, not most, but some American people to...
What?
Or if you were talking to him, what he would say. So you're saying that all of these different things actually use a flat plane. Well, why is that far-fetched? It's not like you guys aren't saying all of these things are derived from a globe, except you're wrong.
Yeah, but we'd have to show how they're not derived from a globe. They're originally derived from a flat plane. Even if you can take, like, with the globe burger and say, well, look, we take the angle to the stars that are really far away and then we transpose it to the centre of Earth on the flat plane. You're like, well, hold on. You're not standing in the middle of Earth to measure this angle. Transposition from a curve that won't give you an angle to a flat baseline inside hell isn't a decent answer. Just means you're telling us, by way of this disclaimer, that you can't measure this angle on a curved surface. That's because you can't. Well, you do measure the angle. So what's the conclusion? Well, you are measuring the angle, and it must be flat to measure it. Well, the whole process starts with that angle. So what are you going to do? Tell me that it is a sphere because you took the angle from a flat plane and then moved it to the centre of Earth? Nope, it's not going to fly.
So a lot of the time these things are very American based. Do you not think there would be some government around the world who would say, hang on a minute, like
always deferring to the authority, Andrew, you pathetic cuck. So for you, there must be a big daddy government that can lead me in the right direction, and one of them that's going to stand up to the bad, evil baddies and the hidden hand that are saying it's a globe when it isn't. Surely one big daddy government would stand up for me, the little man who can't possibly figure this out for myself. I haven't got the experience or qualifications, as you disclaimed earlier. It's absolutely pathetic. We live in a world of cucks. You, if you're listening and you're like, Andrew, you're just a cuck who needs to suckle at the teat of government. Have them protect you, because you're weak.
Let's tell our people that's not true. Every country in the world, the countries that are renowned for not getting on with one another, hating each other, blowing one.
Yet only 10 minutes earlier, Andrew Gold was telling us how the countries that he's reified into this mass unified thought processing entity. No, they're just individual dicks that want to earn the most money, aren't they, Andrew? You explained that earlier. Yeah, but doesn't that sort of allude to the idea that they're not this massive intelligence, this government brain that collectively knows everything? No, it's just individual dicks that don't really know anything, isn't it, Andrew? You know that. It's just very scary for you.
Another fair point is that, no, Andrew, it's not all of the governments in the world, just the ones that participate with each other.
Even then, the ones that are participating and going, oh, yes, we must fund these government agencies going to space. Very, very wise. You go, oh, yeah, of course, everyone nods. Well, when it actually gets back to the people who've got to fake it, doesn't mean that everybody who passed it up the line to them knows it's fake when they're passing it on to that agency to pour $10 billion into a black hole of fakery. They don't necessarily know. Nobody has to know. It could be a very small number. It could be 5 people for all we bloody know. Who cares? Show him how it's flat and let him worry about his pain of Big Daddy government not being truthful. That's his problem. Who cares why they lied? I don't care why they lied. Yeah? But I don't live with this requirement that daddy government's going to tell me the truth and that I have to appeal to them to fight it out amongst themselves to give me the truth at the end of the process. I don't care. I don't watch the news. I couldn't give a crap. That's why I've got very little interest in what Andrew Gold says beyond what he talks about with Scientology in mind.
Hey, you know what?
I know what they do when they get into conflicts. They go to the theater of war. It's amazing.
This is what happens.
Okay, and they get order followers.
Can you hear him? Can you hear the video playing?
To kill other order followers. The Cold War, America and Russia. Guess how many people died? 0. Guess how many battles there were? 0.
How do you know? Is he going to back this baseless assertion? That's off a wild tangent. Nothing like a flat Earth claim. Go ahead, D-Rose.
I was just say, this is what happens when you're on your own. You're your own editor. You don't have a panel of co-writers, somebody to, to approve reifications and to, to give you that he's his own yes boss at a boy, and he's not seeking like you seeked, or he seeks you, QE. Just to, you can't. He's doing this on his own, so he's basically just regurgitating the same script over and over again, and he's just not representing well for a flat earther on the level that it needs to be now in 2023. He's still in that 2014, 15, 16, 17 thing, and he's saying the same stuff over and over again. And now it's a new age. We're on another level, and he's just blatantly exposed to be so fallacious with what he's saying. And they can shred him. They can shred him to pieces now. The globe is out there, even the A list to the F list.
0. Okay, it's
Dave.
all yes. There you go. I'm telling you.
What are you talking about? It's just a total misunderstanding of how the Cold War works, and it's not 0 because people died just from the Red Scare, McCarthy era. People died in their own countries because of that. People died who were spies who were caught. So it's not 0, is it?
As evidenced by the historic standard of the dissemination of the information via the media that you trust wholeheartedly and implicitly. As evidenced by your primary research to every spy you've now claimed lost their life. Obviously, you've done all this primary source research, haven't you, Andrew? You're a very good journalist. I'll ask you about it if we ever speak.
Don't start yet. I want to say something.
Let me just round it out. So, yes, generally speaking, if you're going to make that sort of claim, Andrew, I'd expect some primary source evidence to be presented to back that. I mean, obviously you might have it, but I'd be intrigued to see how deep you actually go as a journalist, how extensive your primary source research actually is. I'd be intrigued to find out how good you are. Go ahead.
He's not doing it wrong there, is he? He's responding to Dave's suggestion that nobody in the Cold War actually died. It was all fake. Yeah?
My bad. Yeah, Dave, you complete clown.
It's made up and all this sort of stuff, you know.
Sorry, it's just there's been you've got to, for the audience, right? I can't just direct every bit of vitriol to one of the panel members if it's all garbage and they're both goldfish. I can't. I've got to even it out a little bit. So in this instance, I'm aiming my vitriol towards the side of the argument that's saying they do know about what happened in the Cold War. Now, I don't give a crap about either of these sides of these arguments. I don't care. But whenever I hear a claim, my natural instinct says, what's your base evidence to make that claim? What's the primary research that you did to achieve this as a statement that you're now prepared to put your reputation on? In other words, how good are you as a journalist if you're going to make these sorts of claims? Now, the same applies to Dave, who said the complete polar opposite. Nobody died, nobody got hurt. Okay, that overgeneralization needs to be qualified with a little bit of evidence. What have you got? So far, neither of them have got anything. Just so it's fair. Are you happy now?
Why are we even talking about it? And hold on, I'm waiting to get something. I know you all heard me when Nathan stopped me to finish his point. D-Rose, the sad thing is, you're right about that. He's still stuck in 2014, 15, 16. I don't even think he's advanced to 17. The sad thing is, he thinks he won this debate, and he thinks he wins all his debates.
Yeah,
that's the sad thing.
Well, you know, what you just said about what's this? Why are they arguing about it to begin with? Like, right? If Dave wins this point, what is he proven about the nature of Earth?
Well, he's on a vibe to say that the government is lying to you because his opponent's postulating the position that not everybody could be in on it in order for this to be achieved. So with that in mind, he's giving examples of how, absolutely, you've got government lies afoot. And he's brought up an example of the Cold War, presumably, from Dave WEISS's perspective, having not researched what this guy actually covers, therefore having a reasonable idea of if he's going to go outside of the box, where he needs to go outside of the box to not be caught out by his opponent, who clearly knows a lot more about it than he does.
It wasn't a war fought on the ground. You know that.
You were started with GPS and
no, he doesn't know that, clearly.
Satellites, and here's them launching a satellite. This is what's done, okay?
Back onto his script. So what, that Cold War non sequitur going to be shut down by your opponent? You brought it up.
They launched two...
Go on, whoever that was. No, it was them.
1,000 weather balloons every single day to chart the worldwide weather. 2,000 every single day from 1,000 locations across the Earth. They all launch at the exact same time, twice a day. Okay?
And that proves Earth's not a sphere, proves Earth's not flat, disproves orbital mechanics and motions. What? So what?
It proves that there aren't satellites, and that's supposedly
it does not.
important.
No, it does not disprove that there are not satellites in space, Arwin. That is incorrect. Go ahead, Adam.
I was going to say, no, it doesn't. It proves that they release lots of balloons each day.
Right, but he thinks that is proof that they don't need satellites in space. That's his argumentation.
Is the Earth more round if they release less balloons? What's the ratio? What's the link between balloons, number of balloons, and the nature of the plane we're living on?
There isn't one. There isn't one. Hello, Adam's right. Adam's correct. Hello, it's completely non sequitur. Unless he draws this to a flat Earth proof or a globe debunking, all it does is this is where Arwin is correct. In Dave's mind, he's doing a fabulous job. He's disproving satellites in space with this. No, you're not. It's an entirely non sequitur point.
It is, but he does think that because there's so many balloons that it's literally satellites aren't necessary, and he thinks that undoes it all.
Yeah, but that
Even
might be
though
true.
technically
That
it
might be. Let me respond.
Let me.
That might be the case. Yeah, there might be, as you put it, so many balloons that we don't even need satellites in space. That's real, that we all know is still real, and orbital mechanics is. Do you see where I'm going, Arwin?
Yes, I totally do.
Go ahead, D.
And if I may, let's say there was no argument on the side of a curvature spherical Earth. What is wrong with having a bunch of things that's hovering over the flat plane, whether it be held up by helium balloons or by engines that have to come down and get more fuel to hover up there? If they're all up there, it doesn't change the fact of the surface being flat, even though that is their argument. And
It does.
our counter argument,
Well, let me explain.
like Dave's
Let me
is-
answer. Because they use the term orbit. That's the only reason.
Right, I got you. Well, I didn't say orbit. See, I didn't say orbit.
I know
just
you
said
didn't.
hovering.
But in the mind's eye of anybody in the world that thinks that there are satellites
Right.
in space, they're in an orbit, falling around, although most people don't appreciate it's falling. But that aside, that's what they immediately envisage when they have the idea that there's a satellite in space orbiting a sphere Earth.
Got you.
That's how they chart out all the weather. It's not done with satellites. It's done with balloons. And once you see the balloon programs, you can't deny it.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I'm not going to be able to beat you on the science because I don't know enough about it.
Not science. You don't know what science is. This isn't science. So beating him on the science when he's not talking about science implies that you don't know what science is. We already covered that on yesterday's show. Andrew does not know what science is.
I think I've got you on the...
He does think they're talking about science, though, because Dave referred to his experiments tab. And again, in yesterday's show, if you want to refer to it, Andrew Gold said, I'm not very good on this science stuff when we're talking about the experiments in your fraudulent tab.
On just the philosophical part of it, it just doesn't work. There are 7-8 billion people on this planet.
Have you counted them?
There are
That's
too
another
many.
lie. That's another lie. There's not 7 or 8 billion.
Have you counted them? Have you counted them, Dave, to say that there isn't?
Right, I take that in faith. You're right. I take that in faith. How large is
you're putting out is in faith? And the thing is, most people that fight the flat Earth are they're just.
When he says that, is he referring to repeat criminal offender and outrageously violent, says judge, fight the flat Earth, aka Craig McNeil? Is that what he's referring to?
I knew you were going to say that, Neil.
No, he's just saying he's using that as like those people that fight the flat Earth. Like,
oh, so he's not specifically referring to outrageously violent, says judge, criminal repeat offender, fight the flat Earth, Craig McNeil. He's not specifically referring to that outrageously violent criminal.
I don't think at this point Craig had been convicted of the outrageous violent assault that he did on his neighbour at that point.
I see. But had he already been convicted of poking a woman when he had a bout of outrage on the road?
Could have referenced that then. Just
the woman that the woman that he assaulted.
He spazzed out on somebody?
Yeah, a woman in his car. He got very angry and started poking her with a stick, assaulting her with a deadly weapon. That's correct.
Oh, wow.
When was this?
What a gentleman.
I don't know when. Craig told me in my comments
was this Craig?
about
Yeah,
the
Craig, I
woman.
heard about it,
Obviously,
yes.
Craig blamed the victim of his violent assault with his walking stick, but ultimately Craig admitted that he'd been beating women in my comments. Anyway, moving on.
Believing what they were taught in school.
But just so we can draw a close to that. Sorry, my bad. They were not talking about repeat violent criminal offender Craig McNeil from Fight the Flat Earth channel. Just so we're clear, they weren't talking about that violent criminal offender. We're all clear that they weren't talking about repeat violent criminal offender Craig McNeil. We all know they're not talking about him.
Repeated. Okay, look at. I want to talk about that. I never look at it like this until y'all just brought it up. Regardless of whether about the spherical Earth thing, the Tartarian, everything. I never really thought about it when people say, "Well, there's 6-point-something billion people." How the hell do they know? I know so many people that don't fill out census forms. There's so many people that are homeless on the earth that don't get accounted for. I mean, how do they know? A lot of people don't even go by the Social Security in the United States because they don't believe in that, because they use midwives and different ways that people are not accounted for. So when we go by that, I lived by that. When I heard that, just because the person or the entity that said it, I literally said there's 6 point something billion. But how do they really know? So that's another thing when it comes to what we talk about, making these claims. Can you prove it? I love the way y'all do this.
I
That's
always
why I
thought
love
that was
this show.
nonsense.
I love you guys. I don't care
Even
what
way
you know.
before, but
I don't
bro,
care
even
what
way
you know.
before.
It's one at a time.
I'm talking to
Chocolate.
him,
Hello,
bro.
one at a time.
I'm
Chocolate.
admitting,
Just chocolate.
I'm admitting my flaw.
Just chocolate. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I feel what you mean, but I always thought that was nonsense. I never
But
understood
sometimes,
how did they think, even when I thought in the back of my mind that it was a ball. How would you know how many people are here? There's some dude in a cave somewhere y'all don't know nothing about, hanging out, doing his thing. What the hell is that? You guys
chocolate,
don't know how many people are in this ball. Come on, that's crazy.
chocolate, not everybody's as analytical and critical as you are. You didn't even know about the things that me and Eli knew about the so-called black ether and all that stuff. All right, you're special.
So
I got you.
Did you just say
They
black
had to,
ether? Sorry.
nobody's trying to say I'm
Hello.
special.
Did you just say black ether?
Let's not get back to that. Let's not go back to that, please. We know what we're talking about. The thing we talked about before when we were talking about how they were saying the ether and it's a black consciousness thing and black people from outer space. And, I don't want to go back into that.
No, I do vaguely remember. No, I do vaguely remember now you say it.
What they were indoctrinated to believe.
Go on, Eli.
What?
We've got to get back to the video at some point. Can we round this out? This is fun, but let's just go ahead.
All right, go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Why? Okay, let's say you're right about this, and I have no real. I'm not somebody who has the kind of ego where I've got to like win and beat someone. What's the point? Let's say you're right. Like, why is it important to you? And I do understand that truth is important, but tell me why else it's important specifically to you, not to flat earthers in general. What is this to you?
Well, once you break the heliocentric spell, your thoughts create your world. You
Again, anybody mind if I'm whiz past Dave's musings on this?
Yeah, because I was going to say, he told him truth. He told him the answer. Like, he asked the question and then gave the answer. There's nothing more pertinent than because truths are good and lies are damaging. Because it's the truth. That's why it's important. The end.
He hasn't sold it as the truth, though. He hasn't given enough evidence for him to just say, because it's a fact. So at the end of, if this was posed to me at this point, back to armchair quarterbacking, I would say, well, I've already demonstrated to you that it can't be anything other than flat. So when you're like, how does this affect me? It's like, well, mind your own bloody business how it affects me. How does it affect you? That's for you to concern yourself with when you face the fact that all the people you trusted have lied to you, and that while you were suckling on the teat of Big Daddy government and going, and you've got to let go now, and suddenly you're on your own, and you've got to find out what the truth is.
Unless time is constricted.
Replay the last 5 seconds, because that was more of a statement, I think, about how you view the world.
Let's say you're right about this. And I have no real. I'm not somebody who has the kind of ego where I've got to like win and beat someone. What's the point? Let's say you're right. Like, why is it important to you? And I do understand that truth is important, but tell me why else it's important specifically to you, not to flat earthers in general. What is this to you?
Well, once you break the heliocentric spell, your thoughts create your world. You realize that everything in your life is because of the way you think. The good things, the bad things are attracted to you because you're thinking about them, and you're bringing those things into your life. The biggest conspiracy in the world is that the universe is conspiring to deliver you every one of your thoughts. So everything in your life is your fault. Period. Okay, I believe that, and it's kind of provable. Right. And so if your thoughts are contained, right, so
we're now into metaphysics, Dave's spiritual view of the world, karma. Is that what once you realize that you're being lied to, then your thoughts form your reality. But it's not what flat Earth's about. It's not what you know what I mean? It's a strange proposition.
Yeah, Earth's flat. How it affects you is your business.
But to say that then you shape your reality, again, it's got nothing to do. This might be very personal belief to Dave. It's got nothing to do with the nature of Earth. It's to do with how Dave views his world in a post-religious viewpoint that he's got now, in a more sounding a bit new agey, isn't it? In the way he views things. I don't see how that's anything to do with the nature of the Earth.
Very appealing, though, to some.
I'm just curious. Can I ask a question?
I'm gonna go with
I missed
no.
the beginning of this from yesterday, but at any point during the whole time that Dave was talking to this guy, and the times he brought up orbital mechanics and space and how fast Earth is traveling and spinning and chasing the sun, did he at any time tell him that this place that he's talking about can't exist? Or did he just give him the argument like, yeah, you think that you're on a ball spinning at 1,000 miles per hour, chasing the sun at 500,000 while going around at 66,000 miles per hour? Did he at any point tell him that this place that we're talking about can't exist?
No.
No.
The fact that we have gas pressure here?
No, exactly,
Nope.
Chuck. It was that bit
Yes
he's
and
not
no.
mentioned.
Hold on. Yes and no. Adam, you can go in a moment. But he did say it as part of the script right at the beginning. But it was just scripted off. It wasn't in defence of any argument. So yeah, he did say it at one stage. He fleeted past it. Go ahead, Adam.
Okay.
He may have done. I've not noticed it. What I'd noticed in relation to that, Chuck, is to point out the ridiculum of some of the movements, the 660,000 miles an hour this way, that way, other. He's kept pointing that out as evidence that these things aren't, the luminaries aren't doing that. It's just ridiculous to claim it. But no, at no point has he demonstrated that. Forget what they're doing, what they're doing it in.
Not with the caveat of
because if you don't know, you don't know.
By the way,
No, he
this
does
place that this
know.
is happening, this place that this is happening can't exist the way the way they tell us it is, being that we're breathing gas pressure. Like,
I mean, this is
even before when he was talking about the satellites and as opposed to whether they're actually setting off balloons. Why wouldn't he tell him why is it that they're setting off these balloons? Because you think they're putting satellites in a place that can't exist. But he just says no, but just balloons.
Yeah.
See, that's what we would say, Chocolate. That's not what he would say. They do not use our arguments.
So Chocolate,
it's not our argument. The fact that gas pressure, you can't have gas pressure without a container. I mean, come on. That should be an underhanded thing that's thrown at everybody anytime that place is spoken about.
There's so many ways to destroy that. First of all, with the distances being derivative of the radius, which is derived from John. But I mean, we wouldn't be able to breathe. There's a honorable mention of the movie Total Recall on Mars where they had to have a dome. But for real though, there's the sun. There's Jupiter. Not an actual, but they actually say that that's a gas giant. So like, there's no mass other than the mass of the gas. And then how do you define mass? It's like, how do you have like a giant ball of gas in the vacuum of space?
That's what I was going to say. So basically, there's a debate about, no, it's not satellites. It's helium balloons. No, it is not. Whereas if you nip it in the bud, all you have to do is say what you guys said. It is improbable, totally improbable, for helium balloons to be in Narnia. It is improbable, totally improbable for anything because Narnia doesn't exist. That's a nip in the bud. Is it like a slide of the hand magician act? Have everybody arguing about this over here while it hasn't been solved and
you're right. You're right. It is a sleight of hand because as soon as when people say balloons, you're okay with thinking balloon is just something you just put up high in the sky.
Mm-hmm.
But the sleight of hand is the word satellite because when people hear that word, what they think is a washing machine with solar panels on it and a floating around and a freaking second law of thermodynamics violation. That's what they're thinking.
Controlling our telecommunications, radar, and sonar.
Heliocentric world where we're going to get hit by an asteroid, a nuclear bomb's going to blow us up, wars, countries, are fighting with each other. We're running out of food. We're running out of water. If you're living in fear, you lose your power, right? We're in a spiritual war. I know that you don't believe that, but it's a war that the elite believe in. Okay, they're really evil people, and once you break that and unplug, you stop feeding the system. And I don't believe that anybody can stop you. And nobody's allowed to take away your natural law rights. Careful how I say that with you. Okay, no one's allowed to take it away, but you're allowed to give it away.
What? Natural law?
Right. So there's no such thing. There's God-given rights. Yeah, they're the ones you claim in natural. If you want to talk about, common law and stuff like that, you forego your human rights and you claim your God-given rights. It's strange you wouldn't refer to that, because that's even in law, that's what you're claiming, not some hippie natural rights. It's your God-given rights.
Part of his script is to parrot off as many buzzwords and headlines that appeal to the most possible people. And this is just another example of it. Parrot off a bit of free man headlining so that anybody who's got that going through they're going through the motions of that research at that moment will go, oh, he knows about Freeman. Oh, right. That's all this is. But he's a surface scratcher. So he doesn't actually know much about this stuff.
You're allowed to give it away. People can trick you. And if you don't pay attention and realize what this world really is, you give away much of your life. Most people in this world...
When I was on the globe, I didn't give away any of my life. In terms of what I did with my taxes and my general day-to-day living, not a great deal changed when I transitioned to Flat Earth. Most of the things I'd given up on, like media, I'd already given up on anyway. That's just me personally. But for me personally, no, not a great deal did change. An affirmation that you've been lied to on a massive scale, yes. A realisation that you can't really trust anything these people say. I'd pretty much got there anyway. But Dave's inferring that this revelation will give you something. And it might not. It might leave you very hollow if you're expecting to get something out of it that you don't necessarily get at the end of the process. Okay, well, better to offer it on a no-nonsense, no-frills platter that just says, here's how it's flat. This is what is measured. This is how it's navigated. This is how it appears. This is how it's dealt with. Flat. From that point forth, any further contemplations by the person you've given that information stop being your responsibility. But if you've peddled free energy and a revelation in terms of the paradigm shift that you'll experience, then that's the expectation people have. It's just not fair.
Well, there's also, the being a social pariah comes with the knowledge of this truth. So, yeah, maybe putting a little disclaimer on it every now and again wouldn't hurt.
That's being jazzed up with free energy.
Yeah. Work 9 to 5 at best. Okay. They come home, they eat, they watch Netflix.
Describing almost everybody will be watching this. So you are in a 9 to 5 watching Netflix and you go, that's me. That's me. I could have this revelation. I could have the free energy. I wouldn't need to work my 9 to 5 and my mundane job and my Netflix. Let me get behind Dave. How much for the app?
They watch HBO, they go to a sports game, they drink, and then they start the week over again. And then when they're too old to enjoy anything, they got a little bit of money, they retire and die. Okay? That's not what life is. That's not what life is.
So can I just say, I respect that, okay? And I do. I respect you. I think I should respect everybody I speak to. Why not? And you're a nice man. I would just say what you've said. I mean, I don't know much about the science of flat Earth. I do know about the science and the dynamics of cult think and conspiratorial think and those.
No, he doesn't. No, he doesn't.
Well,
anybody who's listening is probably Alexandra. He absolutely doesn't.
But the science of cults, the cause and effect based on natural phenomena of a cult.
Nah, that more like the science of cults, like on the cover of a book.
Would that not be? Would that not be psychology or sociology? Pseudosciences.
Yeah.
The psychology of cults.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, the social structures of cults. Those would be not science, though, would they? But he's just attributed science to those things he says he knows. What, so you know the science of cults? Well, then, Andrew, you're basically a scientist, aren't you? You complete clown.
And
no,
and he didn't make a proper connection there when he's talking about he's trying to connect globe earthers with poverty. That's not why people have a poverty mindset. If he would have tied it into some sort of psychology, some sort of
Who he? Who's he?
Yeah, but he's not.
Oh God, for
it in
Jesus Christ! Stop. You need to say Dave Weiss or Andrew Gold. Otherwise, we have no idea who you're talking about. Who's he?
When Dave Weiss tried to conflate people being on a globe, being the normal working man who barely have anything in retirement, those things aren't necessarily related because there are people who believe in the globe who are super wealthy. So
right,
that was a bad connection.
It's that false dichotomy, isn't it? You mentioned it. What changes when you realise the Earth is not a ball? Nothing really, other than how you may come to the realisation, but it doesn't give you any freedom. It opens you up to, like I said before, we're selling shit. Yeah, it's not what's being painted. It doesn't offer up a new paradigm to you, a new spiritual way of viewing things, or as you alluded to, give you access to free energy so that your life changes in any way. The only thing for me, and I suppose it's the most fundamentally important anyway, is as you explore this, there becomes the realization that you are created. That's the only life-changing thing for me if you're talking about stuff like that. And that is for you to deal with and reconcile.
I remember the very moment I contemplated it on a drive to Tesco, doing something incredibly mundane, and that went through my mind. Right, it's about a year into Flat Earth, and at about that stage, I was a denier. I was like, no, there's no God. I was almost an atheist. So you go, what does this imply? What are the implications of this? And I was going through it on the way. I had to pull over and stop and have a little word with myself, because suddenly I'm like, oh my God, it all has consequences. You know, we're not in an infinitely expanding soup of nothingness. I'd already come to that conclusion, but that was part of the things that I was having to contemplate. We are created. There is an external entity that created what we experience. That has profound implications, life-changing for some. Now, I believe in many instances that is subconsciously braced against, like I did. Now, obviously, I can only relate it to my own experience, hence I'm extrapolating it out to everyone in a generalization fallacy. But nevertheless, in my opinion, people have got so many skeletons in their closet that they have put there because who cares? Doesn't really matter. Life's not really that important. We're we're totally insignificant, in fact. So what does it matter? When you come to the realization, no. On the contrary, we have great significance. Yeah? It may be the case that we are all that there is. Now, I don't know that. But the point is that you have to have some sort of introspection at that moment, like I did when I pulled over. I went, oh my God, I might be being watched, so to speak. That's how I figured it in my mind. I probably wouldn't rationalise it that way today, but that's how I rationalised it at the time. You're like, oh God, someone on my shoulder.
Saying that, Nathan, I mean, there's that many people I know who are globe believers, you know, ordinary Joes, and they believe in a God and a creator as well. But they also believe in the heliocentric model, not realising.
My uncle's a pastor. First thing I did when I found out that the subject was go to him. What, Earth's flat? Hold on a second. Hang on a minute. Adrian, come and have an interview with me. Tell me how you believe in God and Jesus and what it says in the Bible, and yet you believe in a globe. You square that circle for me. I did a full 3-part interview with him. It's like 7 or 8 years ago now. That's turn 80, actually.
They're not reading the scriptures properly. That's the problem.
Shout out to you, Adrian Hawks, about to turn 80. Anyway.
The problem is all the things that are impossible with the heliocentric model. the problem is that people that do believe in God, they believe that God could just make that happen. God could just create a ball with water sticking to the outside of it,
Yes,
and us chasing around, a gas.
Oh, but I'm sure he could.
Gas body.
I'm sure he
People
could.
think that could just happen.
No, you're saying could. Hold on.
There are people that believe in God and evolution, and they just believe, yeah, well, God gave the spark, and evolution took care of the rest. Because God.
I know
I
you're
did it
saying they could.
myself.
Hold on now. You're saying they could, and what you mean is they do, but in reality, they cannot. Number one, you'll need a flat Earth for that. Number two, the existence of a creator is scientifically validatable through the processes that give us our modern technology with quantum mechanics. So you can extrapolate out the ontological primitives with scientific validity. Well, when you get to those stages of this discussion, there is no squaring the circle of Christianity with heliocentrism. If you actually take the Bible literally in the places that it is literal, there's absolutely no chance that you as a Christian, if you are one, can take the world to be a sphere. It's not. As described by, according to your own scriptures, the hand of God. So no, I'm afraid not. Nevertheless.
Can I answer now, please?
Yeah, go ahead, Ned.
I used to think the same thing. I even preached it, how glorious God was, how we're spinning, but we don't feel it. The problem is it just doesn't say it in Scripture. When your eyes are opened and you see what the Bible is actually saying in Genesis, it does not say it in Scripture. So yeah, God could do it, but it doesn't say he did it that way.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I
might,
feel
exactly.
you,
That's what
and
I was
that's
going to say
in
to Chocolate.
relation
Sorry, Chocolate. That's exactly what I was going to say to you. Yeah, there's a good chance he could have made it a ball. He just didn't.
Yeah, I get that. Trust me, I get that. But that's what I'm saying. Like, people, that whole, you're gonna need a flat Earth for that. They skip that whole thing and just say, "Hey, no. It's a ball. That's what I believe." And yes, it might seem impossible, but God created us, and God is not. God is capable of the impossible.
Kinds of things, and we are all engaged in them, all of us. None of us are free of this. I'm not suggesting this is something that is part of your...
Oh yeah, back to this bit of disdain. Yeah, you telling the audience, Andrew, that you understand the science of cults essentially raises your stature to scientist, which you are absolutely not. So, as Dave got a taste of this yesterday, now you will get a taste of it, Andrew Gold, you fraudster. Because you are not a scientist when you study cults. That would be a pseudoscience, a non-adherence of the scientific method. To assert the scientific validity of your pseudoscience is fraud. You understand me, Andrew? Oh, by the way, let Andrew Gold know. At Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. I'll stick a link to his video so you can let him know the love he received when we rightfully called him a fraudster for claiming science for the pseudoscience of psychology/sociology, which are definitely not adhering to the scientific method. In case you question my validity when calling you a fraud, Andrew, type into Google the word pseudoscience and see what comes up. I'll just tell you, save you the bother. It explains that it's a claim of science that has not adhered to the scientific method. That is the textbook definition of pseudoscience. Now, do you think your little research into cults has adhered to the scientific method? Oh, definitely not. Making it pseudoscience and making you a fraud. How'd you like those apples, Andrew? Do you think you'd be smirking when you talk to me about flat Earth? No, my friend, you'd be exposed as a fraud. Like I'm doing now, with an audience letting you know so.
Your mind and not my own. But what you've just told me is what is very common in cults. So in Scientology, they call it you pulled it in. It means everything is your fault that happens to you. The idea is they're selling you this dream that even though it seems harsh on the surface, like, hey, we're going to blame you for everything, they're also telling you you're actually in control. You can control things. And there is no human...
They are so far off the subject. They're into philosophy and what
and religion.
What does that have to do with measurement?
Nothing.
This is stupid.
I think, but
red
Andrew
herring.
Gold is skirting onto something he's incredibly well researched on. Every word he just said about Scientology is true. It's the way they use their religion to victim shame people and basically blame them when they get screwed over by another person. This was in your control when you had the living crap beaten out of you. That's just a way of victim shaming in the Scientology religion. And he's absolutely correct. But he's segueing away from the discussion at hand because he's got knowledge in this subject, so he can seem intelligent while he's claiming to be a bloody scientist and talking about the science of cults. So he's got to demonstrate that he knows his stuff so he can get away with his fraud.
Emotion that is more disturbing, in my opinion, than feeling out of control.
That sounds a little culty, but Andrew, you planned on having this this conversation, and you made it happen. You pulled it into your life, right? You've created your reality. You build your life. The problem is people
I don't mean to suggest that that's. I don't mean to suggest that's not true at all. And like there's a lot of controversy around people like Jordan Peterson, for example, because he's always saying, well, things more. Unfortunately, it is my belief, and my belief might be wrong, but it is my belief that there are things in this world that are beyond our control. And it's really scary to go to the universe and
high pressure next to low pressure. You okay with that? Or is that
events scared and sad and dark, and you worry about
I'll swim back.
And what might happen to you after, and all the mysteries of the universe, and that's hard. And so the human mind invents a story.
Well, you invented a story that you live on a scientifically impossible ball. Let's talk about.
No, he didn't. No. The pseudoscience pretender clown Muppets claimed they had empiricism by saying the word science. But like Andrew Gold, when they said it, they didn't have an adherence to the scientific method. They weren't scientists, and it wasn't science. When they said, the whole body of science proves we're on a ball, yeah, they were committing fraud. They didn't have science. They weren't adhering to the scientific method.
High pressure next to low pressure. You okay with that? Or is that above your pay grade?
No. He's mischaracterized it immediately as being science, and when it isn't. This is a description. Let's just clarify for the audience's benefit, hopefully Dave's if he's listening, the difference between natural law and scientific method. Scientific method observes a phenomena and then establishes the cause of it through an experiment based on a hypothesis. That's science. That's natural science. The study of the physical and natural world. Science. Okay, put that on one side. Then you have descriptions of things which occur always. They are natural laws. So the description of dispersion of gas into space is summarized. The description of it is summarized within the second law of thermodynamics, a natural law, not science. Oh, well, why isn't it science, you ask? Because science would establish the cause of an effect, as opposed to describe an effect that occurs always. The description of an effect is not the establishment of the cause of an effect. So laws describe things that occur always. Science endeavours to elucidate the cause of an effect. Hope that is clear. Dave has said that natural law, in this case the second law of thermodynamics, is the science. No, it is not. Dave doesn't understand science, and when I've attempted to tell him what science is, he shut me down so he doesn't have to listen to it.
What I should do, I think I should get some super chats, but I just wanted to sort of suggest, get my philosophical part of this, the psychological part in.
We would go straight to the measurements.
Because I do think you're right. I might have invented a story about a ball and all these things, but it's not a comforting thought. So my biases have not led me to think that.
Yes. Well, but that's what we've been indoctrinated into believe. Before we can talk, you had mobile over your head and like your crib probably with planets on it, and Sesame Street and all the kids programs. They all have astronauts on.
Chocolate.
What?
You've been talking to him, Chuck.
Sure, it's a good point that they're having a back and forth about, because in essence, Andrew's saying this is scary stuff. You know, the paradigm of heliocentrism is not comforting in the slightest, and Dave's agreeing with him. But I will do it even if Dave doesn't, because it's a good point. It's a tie back into why would they lie, and we discussed how it's a control methodology. Well, fear is one of the best ways of controlling people. So in that respect, this is a good discussion point. Whether or not it gets, like I say, brought to a point like I just did by Dave is irrelevant. I like this point. Yes, that's how it's done. That's why it's done, if you're going to push me to give you an answer on why. And I'm your mate, and we're discussing it in a friendly environment, as opposed to in a debate.
On it, it's all indoctrination. It's to get you to literally disconnect from who you truly are.
No. The lie about Earth being a sphere is to convince you you're on a sphere, flying through a sky vacuum in an orbital motion, because that's what the name of the system is. Heliocentric means sun at centre, with Earth moving around it. That's what the system is. That's what it's trying to convince you. It's not trying to take you away from your inner being, you bloody hippie. It's trying to convince you Earth's a sphere. Now, that's the premise that you need to actually attack and undo by proving it's flat and showing it's flat, how it's measured flat, demonstrably flat, navigably flat. That's what you've got to show to undo this. Not tell him how he'll have a hippy-dippy revelation and suddenly not have to work a 9 to 5. Go ahead, whoever.
Well, on the back end of that, though, they are trying to tell you that you got cousins that are rocks. So there is that.
And
Right?
obviously, our cousins are clay, not rocks, right? Adam was made out of clay. There was some clay left over. Those are.
My citation, Dr. Michelle Thaler, rocks are cousins.
I know. I thought of
Okay,
this
let's not
one
get
and
into the
thought
wrangled
it's
angle
better.
of this particular set of weeds. If it comes up in their discussion, we'll cover it.
Chats, come in with questions. Let's read them. That would be great.
Yeah, okay, let's do that. I would just finish with like, but your version of it is very comforting, and I think it's very human to go with that. And even when you're
Yeah, probably sells a lot of apps.
describing,
Yeah, it's a total lie. It's not comforting. Adam went through this a minute ago. We're selling shit. Nobody wants to be a flat earther. You get ridiculed in society. That's what you get. I'm just going to not sugarcoat it for you. I'm sorry. It is flat though, and I can show you how. What's that? Why would that? I don't care. Well, you want comfort?
The comfort level
it's
of
not
it,
what we offer.
the comfort
Sorry.
level,
Go to a counsellor.
yeah, the comfort level of what it is irrelevant.
Yep. Yeah. Don't care how comfortable a flat Earth measurement is to the elevation angle measurement of a star if I'm lost at sea and need to save my own life. I just care about saving my own life and my own skin. At that point, I'm measuring Earth flat. Now, all of the systems that we described in terms of GPS were derived from that Cartesian plane. So in terms of how Earth is measured, my feelings don't come into it.
Wait a minute, hold on a second. Comforting that the elite are out to enslave us and keep us in a spiritual. That's not comforting.
It is, because it implies that if you just got rid of that elite, there'd be some sort of either an afterlife, an all-loving creator, more resources. All we have to do, don't be worried when you're going to sleep about the loneliness of it all and dying alone. Just think we just need to get rid of that elite.
No.
Now, I don't deny the elite are there.
No, he's got a good point. First, probably the only thing I agree with Andrew on in this particular discussion, because he's right. But he's only right in terms of the appeal against Dave's position, in terms of how comforting he has offered it up to be when he's trying to flog his app. And the revelations and world-changing alterations to what would be your life if you accepted this, based on what he says. Well, in that respect, we like I said earlier, we're not going to sugarcoat it. We're selling crap here. Nobody wants to be a flat earther, because the society that we currently live in is not on a flat earth. Therefore, you are the pariah of society if you're going to take that stance. Well, that's how I'm going to tell you, when I also make damn sure you know how flat it is. Beyond that, I'm not going to concern myself too much. I'd drive myself nuts. You have to come to terms with it. You have to come to terms with the fact that society won't like you because you've come to terms with it. And then deal with that in however you choose to. You see fit to, like Andrew Gold will probably do, appeal back to the liars on how they've lied to you, or ask them why they lied, or ask them for the truth because you need some replacement. But ultimately, what Andrew's just disseminated to Dave was absolutely correct in response to how he's packaged up Flat Earth. You're right. Does seem very comforting. And you've got to make it seem that way. You've got to put as much positive spin as possible when you're spending a good section of the whole discussion talking about how your app works and how you've got science in it with the experiments tab. You've got to make it seem like it's going to change your world. To get them to part with your $5 or whatever it costs.
Yeah. The elite are there. The problem is when you get rid of them, there's also meaninglessness there, and that's sad. And
so your life is meaningless without the elites, is it, Andrew? Oh God,
that keeps me up at night.
Yeah, that was sad. That keeps you up at night. I didn't expect that to be the follow-up. Yeah, I was absolutely bang on. I was so correct when I said what Andrew feared when he projected it straight out. Terrifying for you.
Yeah, you call it.
I'm going to change my truth. I know you do, but okay, let's go to, and you're welcome to. I welcome all different views on this channel. That is important, plurality of opinion, because otherwise we do have group.
Welcome me.
You would welcome you.
Would he welcome me? Because I'm willing to go.
Drop him a line.
Yeah.
Chats are coming in. Anybody that's new to me, you can find all my information at flatearthdave.com. My app is there. It's only $3. And there's tons of information. It's the stuff that YouTube is.
Oh, well, if that doesn't leave a bitter taste in your mouth after what Andrew just said about how he pitched and packaged this, after that, which is incredibly negative in terms of how Dave's presented it, he took that as a lead in to offer it up with the close. Oh, my God. The only thing David is selling here is the app. That's it. He's going through the motions so he can sell the app. Because if he wasn't, he'd have heard the fact that the way it's been packaged up by criticism from Andrew Gold was to say you're offering people a false hope. He didn't say, no, I'm not. He just said, here's the app. Oh, my God.
Is hiding from you. If you don't want to pay the $3, you can spend 500 hours looking for stuff on YouTube and maybe find 2 hours worth of good content. Okay. But the app is $3 and it does a ton of stuff. It's $11 a year if you want to use the friend finder and message other people and get involved that way. But you don't need to do that. Also, there's the crash course on my website. It's free. Just watch.
Okay, while Dave's plugging his app, I'm going to tell you again, rather than supporting Dave, I'm going to support Andrew Gold. So once more, if you would like to just let Andrew know, at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me, there is a link that will be whizzing by any moment in the live stream chat, so that you can just hopefully get him to respond and return the algorithmic love where we receive none from YouTube by popping my link in his video when he comes back at us and says, nah, the science of cults is a well-known science.
Out his stuff, and then you can tell him it's all complete nonsense and then try and get a refund or something. Right, send in your super chats, because that's all I'm probably going to be able to read, because there's never been so many comments on a thing, and I go to a different column here.
Look, Capricorn now, and then 6 months later, the sun moves out to the Tropic of Capricorn, and it never gets close enough to Alaska or Norway to rise for like a month or so or longer, right? It's never close enough because it's so far away, it never rises. There's your polar night. Here's the problem. You should have the exact opposite 24 hours a day and 24 hours a night in the south, but it doesn't happen. And we've proven it by all of the stations reporting with their cams. And there is 24 hours of no light, because when the sun is on the Tropic of Cancer, it never gets close enough to Antarctica to light it. But when it's out here, Antarctica still gets dark. It should never get dark. It should be 24 hours of sun. But it should be 24
hours. It just seems like such a convoluted thing, Dave, for a creator who's just made a flat Earth for us. Why is he doing all this fiddling about with suns and dials and things?
Well, why would the creator create a speck of dust flying through an infinite universe with air on the outside adjacent to a void, which defies all of the creator's physics? I mean, you want to talk about convoluted?
I don't think a creator did.
Yeah. So you think nothing? This is a cool story, right? Nothing exploded and became everything. Okay, boom. Nothing.
Any comments?
He was so close to the second law of thermodynamics.
He was in the zone. I was like, yes, Dave, go.
Alas, the creator's laws.
Nothing. We'll give you that. It became everything, and then somehow, gas violently fills the space the available space. But for some reason, if you get enough gas in space, it collapses upon each other and becomes a nuclear furnace, leaving a void of no pressure in between. So gas collapses on itself and then becomes this huge gravitational monster that burns. The sun burns like 600 billion tons of energy of fuel like every minute or something ridiculous like that. But for billions of years, it's kept its gravity the same. Okay.
Yeah.
What's
Dave,
going on there?
We keep getting back to the same thing. You don't want to believe things.
Go on. Someone trying to get a word in? No?
I would like to say, though, like, why did he go to that gas is collapsing in on itself? That is not what oh my goodness. That's not what
he was already, because he was already on the nothing exploded and became everything thing. So he was already at the Big Bang, and You know what I'm saying? He's already talking about all that.
Yeah, but he just made a description of gas collapsing. When do you ever see gas collapsing in on itself?
No, he's
that's
making
just
fun of their story. That's their story, and he's in his own way making fun of it, right? Saying that's what
Proof
you
was that
believe.
the gravity hasn't changed. He cited
Yeah.
the fuel bill for the sun, and then proof was, look, the gravity hasn't changed.
Yeah.
He
That
doesn't get
suggests
away with
nothing
calling
was in
us
the
a disc in space.
control
Yeah.
of a creator. It's
Here-
difficult to believe that. Right, I've got a next question. Right,
good.
Nechama Gluck. What might be and there's another question I'm going to pop in a second, but thank you for the super chat. What might be the motivation to uphold such a large-scale alleged lie? Who would benefit and how? Seems like a lot of work for what gain? And I'll just say there's another similar question.
Positionity. People are like, you know what? I'm getting out of here.
But that kind of proved my point, right? He like he just said it's kind of ridiculous that the creator would create a flat plane, but all the impossibilities of the heliocentric model. Yeah, I believe the creator could create that.
You showed me that on the thing. It actually got me excited because it's such an exciting theory. But that's exactly why I don't want to believe, or I don't think I can believe in it, because I know my own biases too well, and I want to believe that actually Antarctica is just one thing. And if you get beyond it, there are all these.
Yeah, so notice he's picking apart the bullshit narrative that Dave's created for him with no evidence, rather than the non-evidence that Dave didn't present anyway in regards to the undebunkable evidence that he could have presented but didn't. You know, so what are we going to attack? Rightly so. Your claim there's an ice wall in an area self-disclaimed as not being able to be researched by him. But there's an ice wall and we're in a puddle. So what are we going to attack straight off the bat? Yeah, the bullshit narrative that he's used to replace the old one. Dave's old globe has been replaced by Dave's new puddle. So that's what's being attacked.
Exactly. Kiwi was in the 24/7 room in politics server yesterday, so he got a little taste of it. I wish he was here. But the bottom line is, you know what I'm doing? I'm fighting off the straw men that I could argue was given to the ballers from Dave. Now, they're being bigots by attributing that to me when I'm telling them to their face, I didn't present that as an argument. Please stop presenting things to me as an argument from me that wasn't from me. And it's usually all of the things that this guy, Andrew, just put on Dave, but he didn't just put it on Dave. Dave gave it to him for him to refute.
Right.
So
you're making me hungry.
Yeah, stop eating on your mic. It's gross.
These secret extra continents with different resources and a creator. How exciting is that?
I don't know if that's true, but think about this. Imagine we lived a while ago and there's only boats. There's no airplanes, there's no radios, there's no telephones, there's nothing. And the educator said, you know what? I'm just going to draw a circle around here. United States, a little bit of South America, a little bit of Canada.
No way. Is he going to do celestial navigation? Pound says he gets halfway through it and doesn't use it as a proof.
We're going to say, okay, this is what we're going to tell people. We're going to say, hey, there's nothing else. We're going to wrap it around a ball. We're going to say, this is where you live, and there's nothing else. And if you go more than 100 miles off.
Yeah, we all know the globe lie. So what are you going to round this up by giving a rendition of the globe lie?
Sure, you'll be turned around by the military.
Here we go. Just watch Andrew. See if he just starts nodding along with Dave telling him how globy it is.
And you can't explore this white dot down here. Okay, this is all there is. We wouldn't know that the UK existed, or Australia, or Africa. Okay, this would be our entire world. What if? This is a huge what if. Look at this. Watch the screen carefully. What if we lived in the center of this pond? Okay, these are all other ponds, pieces of the plane, planets, if you will. And they did the same thing. They cut it out. They wrapped it around a sphere. I'm not saying this is real. I'm just saying.
Well, here you are. You're postulating it. So why pepper your statements of what the world could be by saying you're not saying it's what it could be, when that's precisely what you are doing?
It's a nice false dichotomy, though, isn't it?
Yep, globe versus this garbage.
What if? And they said, this is where you live. You're not allowed to explore. You know what this is?
That is sort of what's the truth is.
Boom, told you. So, yeah, that's right, Dave. That's sort of what the truth is. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, we are in a sort of suburb of the Milky Way.
This is a
Yeah, so he basically agrees with you, Dave, when you told him how globy it is, and solar system based it is. He ignored your puddles crap. But maybe, if you're lucky, you'll get him onto this false dichotomy that you don't need to be in.
prison for your mind. A prison for your mind. Okay? You're literally in a prison.
Thank you, Morpheus.
If you don't understand, where we truly live. And again,
yeah, but except you can escape it.
I don't
you
know.
go to the moon.
What, via a second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum that would leave us all without any gas to breathe, Andrew? Yeah, we wouldn't be rinsing and repeating with this had you have understood the second law of thermodynamics violation, sky vacuum that would definitely not be real and facilitate trips to a claimed to be rock in the sky in an orbital motion in a heliocentric religion derived from a whole string of assumptions that we can debunk. No, you definitely wouldn't be telling at the end of, what is it, well over an hour that you could go to the moon if you were in front of me. Because if you did, I'd be laughing at you going, what, through a sky vacuum?
You can escape it.
Or you could go with the, how are you going to plot your journey using orbital mechanics without a plane of reference?
Is that Lamborghini again? You'll need a flat earth for that. It's that highway that over the top of the windy roads with me picking my way through in my Yugo. and then John goes over the highway I've not noticed in his Lambo. You'll need a flat earth for that.
He does seem
And
like a
also,
reasonable enough
plenty
guy.
of-
I'd like to talk to Andrew Gold.
I hope you do.
People over the years have traveled around the world. Plenty of people have traveled around the world.
Okay.
Around the world? That's very ambiguous.
Now, since that brings up, you got to give me a full 60 seconds on this one. Okay.
No, because I've got questions to get to.
No, that's all right.
Okay.
Circumnavigation. Pay attention. You ready? Okay. Here's my
Quickly.
You gotta watch. Here's my northern center. My compass. What? You're not watching, Andrew.
I am. No, I'm looking at my lower screen.
So the compass is pointing towards the center. I am pushing this compass west. West is a circle around the center.
Looking at his teleprompter.
Okay. This is circumnavigating the world. I could do the same thing and go east. If I go east, the compass here.
Create a lever magnet in the North Pole.
That's how this place works. So.
I did you just ask why a creator would leave a magnet at the North Pole? I mean, good answer, Dave. That's just how it works. I mean, there is a magnetic North Pole, and circumnavigation east or west would just leave you travelling in circles. So around, ambiguous though it was when you gave it as a statement, has now been clarified by Dave in terms of circumnavigation in a circle. That's not in any way inferring anything globe-shaped.
I like it. Right.
Here's the problem.
I've got more questions.
He was ignoring every word you said, Dave, I'm afraid. I mean, you had a good point, to be
What do
fair
you think?
to you.
What do you think that same concept will work on a globe? And that doesn't question that? How does he think compasses work?
He wasn't listening, but Dave didn't read that when he was like, no, I'm reading super chats. It's like, well, let him get through them and then get back to your point. I mean, if you could have kept this 2-3 sentences, then fine, but I had to buzz my way through at least 30 seconds. He wanted 60.
Hold on. Billions of people have circumnavigated east and west. 0 have gone south, right? If I try to go straight, I'm going south, okay? Billions of people. No one has done it south because the earth is flat. Go. Sorry.
You wouldn't if you were going to circumnavigate the globe, you would not go south and north because it's freezing cold and you'd get into ice and it would be impossible and you'd probably die.
Ever flown.
So then why was that his argument before then?
Yeah.
No one's even flown it. You can't go south. You can't go south. That's what they want you to believe.
Right. Okay? Next question. Right. Firstly, thank you to Daniel Gruick for the sticker thing. Thank you to Polly J. That Dave.
Those are showed them how that's false.
About me, I will read it out. I assure you.
Yes.
Let's see. Anson Howard says you can only see how silly heliocentrism is from your side. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Hold on again. You cut out of my earphones. What did it say? You can only see how silly
heliocentrism is from the outside. It's absolutely ridiculous.
It certainly is.
There you go. It's one down under, presumably in Australia and New Zealand.
Yeah, absolutely. If I drew an arrow that was pointing towards you, the arrow is pointing away from me towards you. Somebody on the side of the room sees an arrow going to the left. Someone on the other side of the room sees an arrow going to the right. that must mean that that my room is a sphere, right? Okay. You've been programmed into believe that it's up to here long. The weather balloons are dead. These
I can't take this guy no more.
to make, and the plane takes off 30 minutes late. Somehow it lands at the right time because they're like, you know what? We need to make up time. We're going to put this guy in this tailwind and we're going to send him over here. And they sort it out because of these 2,000 weather balloons every single day. So that's who does the weather on flat Earth.
Who puts
does
the
it on the
2,000
globe?
weather balloons up?
The National Atmospheric Administration. I'm not sure of the organization, but you can look it up.
Yeah,
Public
of
knowledge.
every country in the world, all colluding.
There's 1,000 spaces equally spread out across the Earth, and they all coordinate the balloon launches at the exact same time, twice every single day.
So where are these
That's
balloons?
who
If
does
there's
the
a flat
weather on
Earth?
flat Earth, huh?
Apparently so. Hey,
Wow.
Tom. Morgal.
Hey guys, and sorry, but I just feel so bad saying this, but it's sad because you can tell, at least in my opinion, Dave Weiss is definitely a genuine flat earther. Like, he definitely knows the truth. And damn it, it's almost as if he really is doing his best to represent flat earth. And it's sad because from just a logical debate-wise sense, I don't even see how this could have been billed as a debate, but it's just terrible. And again, the only reason I say this is because I personally feel very strongly about the topic of flat Earth. And when I see it just butchered so terribly by somebody that I know and love as a brother, like no homo, it physically causes me pain and grief. It really does. And so I usually try to steer away from these things, but I guess when you're amongst friends, it's a little easier to digest it, right?
Well, just for the audience's
I like the
benefit,
word
they may
you
not
used,
realize.
butchered.
They may not realize this, but you actually debated alongside Dave Weiss on the Ball Earth Skeptic Roundtable on JLB's channel, right?
Was he on that? He might have been on the last one at the same time as me. There was a lot of people on the one show, so and it's been a long time, so I don't remember who all was on it, but very possibly he was on there too.
Yeah, right on. But yeah, so I mean, back then, those arguments against heliocentrism weren't particularly refined, and there was a lot of, I don't know how I'd phrase this, maybe anti-skepticism to flat Earth that was also useful back then. To have someone like JLB not neutral, but also not flat Earth positive either, just asking some good questions. But back then, you could forgive the ignorance of people like Dave butchering some of the arguments because you don't know what you don't know. And earlier when Neil was saying that, or I think D Rose was saying that, you don't know what you don't know. Yeah, that's fine in the first year, maybe the first 3 years, but sort of 8 years into the subject, not knowing how to just absolutely slam dunk flat Earth proof on some of the things that you've been asked for, it's kind of inexcusable.
Well, and not only that, but of course, sort of the beauty of it is we already know, like, maybe it's a half dozen, maybe a dozen things that someone is going to potentially bring up. And usually they'll throw one at you. And if you start making too much sense, they'll throw another one at you. So they do keep you on your toes. But if you can keep them to point, like, we know exactly what they're going to say. Like, it's either going to be the ship's going over the horizon, or it's going to be the Coriolis effect, or, if I drop a hammer on my foot, it's going to fall. So, we know what they're going to say. And after so many years, like, you kind of got to get better. Get good, scrub.
Well, that's it. I mean, the reason we have housekeeping questions, next show will be a Monday start of the week, and I'll go through all of them, right? Those are what you are talking about. We know what questions we're going to be asked, and the housekeeping questions are specifically developed to remind us of what that list of questions is and how they'll be argued, and have the response phrased in such a way that makes the answer impossible, so that within one sentence you can understand how the arguments come to pass and what the argument is, and you can take it to its logical conclusion just by answering the question. So, many of the housekeeping questions have had a considerable length of time put into them to be refined to keep us on our toes, to keep us frosty about these arguments that we know are going to come up over and over and over and over again. So that in the case of the panel, they'll turn around to people who come in and say, well, that's a housekeeping question. Have you got an answer to that? Is there any scientific evidence of gravity? When they start launching into their waffle about it. You're like, well, what's the scientific evidence for it? Because that's the standard that everybody adheres to. Even the pseudoscience fraudsters like Dave and Andrew are going to start talking about their science for this and their science for that. So, okay, give us your scientific evidence of gravity. You watch how effective it is when you boil it down to cause and effect relationships for a phenomena they haven't got to observe in the first instance. That's how you're supposed to discuss these arguments 8 years into the game, as opposed to what we've got here. You know, back and forth.
Well, but the thing is, when you say the word science, it just goes miles of legwork automatically, right? So you can just kind of use the term science willy-nilly if you want to, and people just believe you, especially if you're wearing a white coat and have a name tag that says scientist on it, right?
Well, the metaphorical white coat in this instance is a claim that the science of cults is understood by Andrew Gold, and then to affirm that when he says science, he means... in reality, he means, I know what I'm talking about when I talk about the science of cults. It isn't science, though, Andrew. And you don't need to steal the valor of an empirical method to infer that you know what you're talking about. Because the only thing it then leaves you as is a fraudster, when in reality your dissemination of how victim shaming works within the religion of Scientology was 100% accurate. I couldn't fault it. Why tarnish that by claiming it's science? There's no need. But the reason people do it is because, as Morgals correctly identified 30 seconds ago, it's a shortcut. Yeah, I do know what I'm talking about. This is science. Check out how much of the science I know, and before the sentence is over, you'll know that not only is what I'm saying absolutely correct, I know all about it, making me the authority. That's what it does. It's a shortcut to making him the authority. Well, no need.
I want to say something.
You can, but I'll just round out my point. He is an authority on this subject. Only yesterday, Morgal came and said, I thought I recognised the name. Why? Because he's an authority on Scientology and the cult thereof. I would happily label him with that title. Science of cults, suddenly you're going to get called a fraudster. Do you see the fine line? Just for that shortcut. You don't need to steal the valour when you can demonstrate how knowledgeable you are about the subject. Anybody who's listening to me who's been vouched for you in this regard in terms of that specific piece of information, coincidentally, I've researched it, so therefore I know you're right. Well, do I need to suddenly ascribe the word scientist to you? No, I don't. You're right anyway. Go on, Neil.
Well, I was just going to say, it seemed to me like he was kind of calling flat earthers a cult too, wasn't he?
You were shouted down with a hold on, it was only short. Just repeat it and then Neil can go. Go ahead, Morgan.
Oh, yeah, I just said, doesn't it seem like...
Like my computer's crashed in the middle of that sentence? It does seem like that.
No. Can you hear me?
Yes, go on one more time and then we'll go to Neil.
Yeah. No, it just seems to me I totally lost my train of thought.
I would blame Neil.
Sorry, go
blame Neil. Just blame.
Yeah,
Neil.
Go ahead, Neil. Yeah, I totally like my brain fart.
Damn it, Neil.
Damn it, Neil.
He may be a friend
You made
of
Morgar
yours.
lose his point, Neil. Now I'm going to make you lose yours.
I'm not going to lose it because I've been waiting for 20 freaking minutes.
Go ahead, Neil.
Maybe a friend of yours, but he's no friend to us anymore. He started this war. He drew first blood. Nathan was protecting his Bitcoin. He knows the freaking arguments. There's no excuse for this stupid son of a bitch that I got to listen to for the past 2 days. I'm losing my freaking mind. He's reading from a script to sell his little piece of shit app. I don't think he's a serious flat earther. I can't stand the man.
No swearing.
No swearing. Is that it? You were waiting 25 minutes to say
just
that.
to give this guy, Andrew, benefit of the doubt. I don't think I don't know him as well as you do, but I don't really, it doesn't sound to me from listening to him that he knows the empirical method, right? So couldn't it be he's just using the word science as like the body of knowledge of cults, as opposed to saying that it's actually science?
So, and that's what I was going to say. Did it seem like he was calling flat earthers a cult by his statement? Kind of seems to me like he was like veiled, making a commentary that, yeah, flat earthers are kind of a cult, according to Dave. I don't know.
Think about the deal. I mean, let's just take your standpoint alone. We don't want to associate with those guys. We don't want to, besmirch our good name. Well, that's why everything on here stays on here and why all the kids are playing out there. Tried to tell y'all.
No, but they know where this. Don't be no. They know what's here. They won't come here though.
Go with the OGs. They don't want to play bingo. They want to be outside. So we got to go outside.
I will not have my good name besmirched.
That's a Godfather. That's a Godfather quote.
Yo, Kiwi was in there body slamming ballers yesterday.
Tell us more.
Body slamming who?
Oh, body slamming ballers. I'll let him talk.
I went slumming yesterday.
You were summoned?
No, I went slumming.
Oh, you went slumming. Which Discord server were you in?
I think politics server, whatever it is.
No, be honest, you enjoyed it. It was like the good old days.
Politics?
Well, 24/7 has its own little subgroup in there, and it was a whole bunch of new meat. So I did a little slumming.
I didn't realize y'all stuck around after the show because I guess y'all do an outro or something. And these last couple times, it was dead air. I was like, oh, I guess it's over. So I don't know how to turn the damn app off. Like, well, I turned the app off, and I guess I'm still connected. So
yeah, this is classed as the after show. So the recorded bit, the non-live bit.
I want to tell Morgan something.
Just so you know, the reason we have this... just one sec, Neil. The reason we have this is because often there's a fear base. There's a level of fear in our opponents that says, oh, I don't want to do this live. Oh, they're finished now. I'll go in and tell them how wrong they are. So for that reason, I continue to record because after a very short period of time, I started to figure out, no, they like to come in when it's not live. So that I didn't miss that. I was like, well, I'll just continue recording for a little bit afterwards. And if someone happens to turn up, but it ends up being a 3-hour waffle half the time. So every day I tell myself, no, just 2 hours today. It always ends up being 4.
Yeah.
What?
I've been mute.
That's it, Neil. That's your cue. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to tell him all, Gal. I'm glad he's back around. He was one of the first guys I ran into when I came to Flat Earth, and I really enjoyed his videos. Just stay away from that Globebusters chrome. Will be good.
Did he die? What's going on? What are you talking about? I didn't realize he'd gone away.
Well, he wasn't making videos for a while.
Well, I always did Globebusters for all those years just because I was invited to do it. And, I as you guys all know, am very passionate about Flat Earth, as you guys are. And so, it was just something that came natural. It felt natural. I think that we had a good chemistry for a while. But there was always, under the surface conflict as far as I was concerned, but I just sort of, kept my mouth shut to a lot of things that really kind of drove me crazy about it. But, I think for the sake of, for being unified, sometimes it's best to just, to try to work things out personally between friends, right? But at some point, it's kind of hard to determine who exactly are your friends, right? Because like some of the ways that I was treated Like, I wouldn't treat my dog. And, I hate to speak ill of the dead or whatever, but
rather than, because this is technically rehashing this for you, so rather than you doing that, because you got a lot of vitriol in your comment section, I saw it. Rather than that happening in my comment section against you, where you can't field the responses, can you plug your video? Because you did a solid half-an-hour video where you'd obviously pondered it before it, whereas you've just been thrown this question now. Now, obviously, because you've already made the video, you've got part of that response within what you've already said. But if you just give the title of the video and name your channel as a plug, at least it's got some direction to this, which you've already gone through, and you sounded heartfelt then, you sound heartfelt now. Rather than putting through that again, get the words out, plug your video, and then people can hear the full explanation in its entirety, rather than you having to rehash it here now.
Well, honestly, I couldn't tell you the title offhand, but it's one of like 3 things I could probably rattle off. And I'm not sure exactly. I know even which video you're talking about, really. Let me get my laptop going here. Hold on. We can probably figure it out if you want to. Let's see. Do you remember if it was a live stream or if it was something that I edited and put together and put out? Do you remember?
It was just a spew of consciousness that was about half an hour long. You're like me, you can't remember what videos you've made. I'm sure I did make a video about this. But well, if you can't remember which one it is, I can't either.
What I mean is, so like, in my YouTube list of videos, I'm on the creator studio side. So you can either look at your live streams or your videos. And so I need to know, like, because I'm not 100% sure which video you're talking about. But if you remember do you remember if it was a live stream or like something that was edited and then uploaded, or you don't remember?
I suspect it might have been edited, as in it's not in your live list. I think you uploaded it as a separate video, because you mentioned that you tried to make it once before, so that suggests that it might have been an uploaded video rather than a live stream. But there we go. Because you were picking your words so carefully, I think you made it as an offline video so that you could pick your words carefully.
Yeah, I do much better if I write out a script. So like when I'm putting a video together, I'll write out a script and then edit that. And then when I'm reading through it, I'll also sort of improvise at places if necessary too. But it's just so much easier for me to do that because, hold on, and I can't talk and chew gum at the same time either. Hold on, I'm logging into the stupid internet here.
That's okay.
Hold on.
That's normally my mode. Nobody else will chat while you're trying to do something and look for something. And nobody else will pick up the fact that you don't want to be chatting for at least 2 or 3 minutes so you can find something.
Yeah.
People really responded well to yesterday's video. I'm surprised. It's been like a string of videos where we've done the exact same thing, but with Jaron or with Witsit. And then we do it with Dave. And suddenly people are more positively responding to it with Dave than they were with Jaron or Witsit, or any other examples that we've done recently that are flat earthers. Bev, for example. So I don't know what it is about.
Dave's a nice guy. He's super nice.
So why would that mean that people would respond positively to us being negative towards his efforts?
No, I thought you said the opposite.
No. People who are like, how dare you attack Witsit? He's a genius. Or how dare you attack Jaron? He's God. Not so with Dave. They're like, yeah.
Just the anti-Semitism.
That's actually sad to hear.
Any idea why? Why might that be? Why might that be, though? I don't know why that might be.
It's
I think you'd have to ask Andrew Gold because he's like the expert on it.
He's the expert on the sociology aspects of these questions.
Yeah.
Well, he knows the science, let's be honest.
Morgal's got the video. Let him speak.
Oh, great. We bought you enough time. Perfect.
So I think what it is the flat Earth drama from like August 13th, so a month ago.
Yes, that sounds about right.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah.
Just called Flat Earth Drama.
Yeah.
That's Flat Earth Drama on the Morgile YouTube channel. Be here or be sphere.
Oh, yeah, of course, on the Morgile YouTube channel. Sorry. I'm not exactly prepared for the plug.
Right, it's Brian here. I need a lengthy intermission to make a cup of coffee.
Sort of like Dave Weiss, not prepared for debate.
Well, you know, that might be part of the reason people responded positively to it, because it was kind of cringy, and it's been cringy to watch it. So, you know, to actually hear what the winning points would have been was probably refreshing to some people.
David Weiss does fine. He's like a quarterback that chokes like under pressure. When he goes up against somebody big, it's like, come on, you're choking. And it's like, you know, if you see him do it like the third or fourth or fifth time, it's like at some point you're like, you know, that's not my quarterback anymore.
You saying he's the Tony Romo of flat Earth?
What? He's going to be a great announcer one day. Yeah.
That's kind of what he is anyway, isn't it? Like, he's not meant to be like challenged on his ideas, because he's just not really good at defending them.
He admits it. Some of the times he'll admit it. Yeah, he'll say these are not my proofs. These are other people's proofs. I'm just here, kind of, just putting it out there.
Yeah, and you know, really, all we want to do here is get them up to speed on what they should. I can respect them for saying that. Yeah, but still, you know, if you're going to say it, you need to have at least a foundation of.
Nah, we spoke about this yesterday. He puts it on, he owns it. Same thing when you go into a room with an argument. Could be gas fresh out of a container. Could be gravity. It's mine.
Well, he's more of a
or you could just start going on and on about how the Earth is spinning around and flying through space, and then move to the next point without any sort of resolution of that. I mean, that you could do that too, over and over again.
That would probably not be beneficial if you're a flat earther, but yeah, you could do that. I mean, that's an option.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And I mean, you know, I was cringing at some of these debates years ago, like 2016, 2017. And I just stopped watching them because it's like, man, like it's one thing to lose a debate. It's another thing to just really perform badly and not respond to points and not get your opponent to concede, like no tactics at all. But it's another thing when it's flat Earth, right? Because flat Earth really demonstrates itself, right? I mean, it's self-evident. What we're dealing with isn't, you know, fact-based. We're dealing with people who are totally and fully brainwashed, like they don't know their ass from their elbow, right? It's bad. And so you really need to, like, you're never going to sell them on anything, right? Yeah, we are selling shit too, you're right. But that's never going to work, especially when you try to sell them, right? Like the harder you try, the more they're going to refuse. But if you really just let flat Earth sell itself and really appeal to the most simple parts of this with what rings truest with them, right? So like if it's a religious person, maybe you talk about the Bible a little bit. If it's not a religious person, then you definitely don't bring up shit about the Bible, right? So I mean, it's tailored to the individual. But in a debate, like I don't know what the hell this was, but it's almost as bad, if not worse, than the stuff from 2017. And it's like, I don't mean this as an offense. I mean this as a constructive criticism of someone that I consider to be, you know, a friend in this movement, right? I mean, I don't think of Dave Weiss as my enemy, but at the same time, man, somebody that just like bombs flat Earth in a very high profile debate like this, I mean, that's almost like fighting words, ain't it? You know what I mean?
Yes, and I feel exactly the same. I don't have any beef with Dave. I think he's got the best of intentions, and I want to assist him in doing better in the same cause that we have together. But it's actually the reverse. You know, they're bracing against me in this instance, and I will hone it specifically to me because it's me that has approached people like Jaren and Dave in this respect personally. I need to have them, specifically Dave and Jaren, brace against me and call me a scammer. So Dave doing it and saying you're a scammer when I'm trying to appeal to him to learn about what science is upsetting. You're like, why? Why brace against us? Now, I know the answer to the question, having just watched this last video. It's because 20 minutes into the video, he's got to sell the app that's promoting science and experimentation that, quote, proves a flat Earth. Well, that's where he's punting. So doing a crappy job doesn't matter so much as repeating the message often. So he's out on the circuit doing this all the time because that's what it takes to sell the app. It's just a numbers game. In other words, he's working with sales statistics in terms of how many people do I need to reach to sell how many units of the app. Well, more is obviously better in that terms of sales statistics. So he's just playing the numbers game, but neglecting to actually do a good job along the road.
Right, because wouldn't you sell more? I've been in sales. You'd think you're going to sell more if you don't make a complete fucking fool of yourself. Excuse the French.
But you got to remember the ignorance. Hold on, you are right, but that's different. If he was out on the road on the flat Earth circuit punting his app, right? Let's say he was, instead of in front of Andrew Gold, he was in front of Flatzoid. So he goes on Flatzoid's channel and starts promoting his app to Flatzoid's audience. Yeah, that's totally different then, because then he's got to know his stuff to get his app sold, because the level of discernment is a notch higher on Flatzoid's channel than on Andrew Gold's channel when it comes to this subject. Now consider the audience of Andrew Gold. They don't know he's making this shit up. Some of it's possibly, although we're hypercritical of it, going to have the audience nodding along going, oh yeah, maybe it is flat. Now, Arthur B. Flat came in yesterday and told us exactly that. That was his sentiment. I went to Dave Weiss because I had all the questions that are being asked by the super chatters, by the way. Why would they lie? What does the sun do when it goes beyond the geometric limitations I now know aren't real? All of these questions were answered by Dave Weiss's app. So therefore, we can't just say, oh, he's doing a terrible job. Now, matter of fact, he is doing a terrible job, but that isn't within the grasp of the actual audience he's appealing to when he goes out on this circuit and appeals to people who are completely green to the subject. He can get away with murder. Now, we intervene and go, you need to start being a bit more careful with your words because it's fraud. Get lost, you scammer, is the response. Because it interferes with the numbers game he's playing. Because it will appeal to those audiences where we have the higher level of discernment to say where it's a scam. Literally. So preemptively he's attacking us as scammers. That's how this is broken down.
So who should take the first step? Wouldn't it be then a wise... Listen to that. Everybody on the Nathan Oakley panel purchases the app and then messages Dave Weiss, say, we all bought your app. We're on board. What can we do? That wouldn't be a good olive branch. That would be... Just going to keep struggling back and forth on who should get the information.
I asked Dave to remove me from his app for obvious reasons at this point. I don't need to iterate them in this instance.
Branches.
But I was on his app, so that was one of the things he dangled against me while I was asking him to clarify some science terms. You could have had a piece of this. What, the numbers game that you're playing for profitability? So, you know, the motivations are clear for what David Weiss is out to achieve and how he's achieving it. You know, you said you're not a good capitalist. Well, there's certain aspects of capitalism that lead you to play the numbers game in this respect. And it can lead you to dull your blade in order to achieve that.
That wasn't the Morgile.
I know it wasn't. It was no tanks. Sorry.
Well, you know, I've done sales. I was the first job I ever had. The day I turned 16, I started doing telemarketing, which I did for years in different capacities. So I'm familiar with sales and the numbers game, but at the same time, one thing that I tread very carefully with, just because I'm kind of bizarre with my, what's the word I'm looking for? Superstitions, right? But when it comes to trying to like pimp out the truth, right? You're treading on thin ice with, you could call it karmic, you know, the karmic cycle or the creator. Like, you really don't want to go there. And so when somebody's doing that, like, sure, make all the money you want to off of the app, but to be like sort of glib and condescending like that, that's, you know,
Yeah,
and also to just simply trying to profit from the truth, to me, is like, I don't know, man, like, you're treading on thin ice with that kind of shit.
Okay, let me just expand out the analogy.
Level.
Hold on. Let me just expand out, because there's another sales analogy that comes alongside that, right? So when you're dealing with other competitors, basically, there's an old management term or management saying, be careful who you step on your way up, because there's a very good chance you'll meet them on the way back down again. There you go.
Yeah, no, yeah. I was just going to, on the sales side of it, I mean, we all know that any product that we purchase, right? If you go buy a certain brand of toothpaste, like everything that you purchase is an investment into that product, right? Like, so that's you're making an investment in that brand or whatnot. So I could see, his side. Nobody wants to work forever, so he wants to one day stop working, and then I would imagine let the system of the app just take over, and input person here can take the reins, no problem. It's not a bad. There's nothing bad about the idea behind it, and and the negativity that comes with profit is just imaginary, and it's put in our way.
Yeah, sure.
And
Nobody would disagree with you. Nobody's saying that you're not allowed to take this and turn it into a profit. And if we were to say that we didn't like it for those reasons, it would just be pure jealousy. That's not what we're saying, though. In terms of what Morgal just said, it's more in the respect that to use that as a sword against me in this respect, that's unreasonable. Or
right, that's exactly what I meant too, by the way. So you did read me loud and clear on that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Yeah, no, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, if I'm him, if I'm Dave, I'm and you're you, right? I'm just gonna imagine the situation. Like, what are you doing putting this bullshit on your app? It's not sending the true message. You need to debate the science. Dave says, what? You don't like what I created? You think what I did is shit?
No.
I'll take you off then.
Let me clarify that before you go on. No, not at all. You are more than anybody's welcome to put whatever the hell they like on whatever they've made as an app, right? The issue comes with this specific app when it comes to the science part. Dave specifically said to Andrew Gold that the proof of flat Earth was found within the experiments tab, and they had done the experiments for the people who could buy the app. That's his testimony when he's selling the app. Okay, that's fraud. Then that's a problem. Everything else, how do you address that? Well, WEISS covered it yesterday. Change the word experiment to demonstration. And no problem, no love loss. Suddenly you're not a fraudster anymore.
That was me.
Who said that? It was you, D, wasn't it? I said it was you.
You said D-Wise.
Yeah. You said D-Wise.
Oh, my bad. I meant you.
But I am wise. Thank you.
D Rose.
Good one.
I meant D Rose. You know what I meant.
It's a geometric observation. It's not science at all.
No, can't
with
be.
a laser test. Yeah.
Precisely.
So he's a fraud then.
Exactly.
And that's what Nathan is saying.
Yes. But that's a minor adjustment. Suddenly, like I say, with one minor adjustment to the title of a tab, he goes from being a fraudster to being a hero. And would we criticise the speculative videos? Nah. Put whatever you like on there. I don't care.
Right, but if we're talking about like consolidation of flat Earth, right? Because that seems to be what, like, everybody getting along. The Flat Earth Society, as Dave put them, is a controlled opposition narrative. Now, he doesn't know that. He stated it. So he's created what we're being blamed for. He's also done within this community by claiming that they're not part of this community.
Be careful, Nathan's labeled them as a controlled op. I've heard him say it before.
I've lost track of
what. Yeah, Nathan isn't trying to create a consolidated unit of a community either. He's just worried about the truth.
No, you're right. That narcissistic bastard is trying to divide the community.
But what I'm saying, though, is by that same standard, so is Dave.
Go on, no
I'm only
tanks.
kidding, Nathan.
Yeah, I didn't really follow what you were saying there. But anyway, no tanks.
What I think is the saddest part about it is that I actually believe you, Nathan. Like there would be times when I would like question like what you're saying, like did Dave really say that? And the thing is, even though I wasn't there and there's no proof of it, like I don't doubt it. Like I totally believe. And that's what I'm saying. Like there's something that's the tip of the iceberg type of thing, right? And when you start letting money, mammon, get in the way of friendships, or if that becomes your sort of be all end all nirvana, right? So if money is your highest aspiration, it seeps out in your interpersonal relationships. And, when people start saying things like, if you would just do X, Y, Z, you could have had a piece of this speedboat or whatever. Like, what a terrible thing. That's a terrible thing to say. And, not to try to be all high and mighty or whatever, but when it comes to people that are making misrepresentations on their very lucrative flat earth software, that's kind of personal to all of us, in my opinion.
Sure. And initially, Dave had my 100% support. He asked, would you like to go on the app? I was like, absolutely, yes, please. Stick me in there. Anyway.
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back to
I'm certain I've been in it. I think some of my videos have made it in there, but I've never seen a dime of
he still
any
has
money.
you guys' videos, sometimes. I've seen both of you guys in there. I just want to circle back to with the money thing. People, money. You got to remember what all it represents is value, right? That's all it represents is how much you value something. So when somebody says, "Well, I'm not going to give you any money," it means I don't value you. Like I don't value your opinion. I don't value what you've done, and that's what it represents. So when somebody throws the word around, the word money around, it means more than just money. It means that you're not valuable. What you do is not significant, and it has repercussions that way.
Yeah, maybe.
And I could speak as a I bought the app a long time ago. It's cheap. It's about okay. I'm not a subscriber, and I can't. I mean, once you buy this, that's it. I'm not throwing my $3.99 by deleting the app, so you can forget about that. But I'm not subscribed to it. But other than his error with the scientific evidence and all that stuff, like Nathan said, if he would just redact that, like as many videos he likes to make, just make a public announcement video and add that to your catalog and say, I like to correct something, and I've been taught by my peer, Nathan, blah, 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 and everything will be flipped around.
No, it doesn't have to do any of that. No. You're asking for a lot. No, on my behalf. Let's just correct that, because you're asking on my behalf, and he doesn't have to do any of that. Like Jaron. I mean, I demanded a retraction, which I'll never, ever get, in terms of him calling me a scammer. But after getting into the wrangle-dangle with him, I didn't even want that. I want him to understand the arguments. I don't care if he credits me or not. In fact, I want him to understand that he has to take ownership of the arguments. They have to be his arguments. So that were someone to turn around and say, that's just a Nathan Oakley argument, or a quantum eraser argument, more accurately, he can turn around and go, no, it is mine. I own this argument. That's what I'd hope he would achieve. In other words, quite the contrapositive. To credit me is to demean his ownership of the argument that I'm trying to give him. In whatever respect I'm trying to give it him, science or whatever. Elevation angle measurements, GPS, it doesn't matter which argument he's not refined enough in. I want him to be more refined. That's not for selfish motivations. It may benefit me. Now with Jaron, it just won't be to my detriment, because hopefully he won't be calling me a scammer anymore. But it's not because I want him to promote me. That's his turnaround to me. You just need me to promote you. No, I don't. I want you to do better in these arguments.
Well, our biggest hurdle, and perhaps we were naive to think that it would be one and done. You could just put QE's science presentation on and somebody goes, okay. I mean, for years now, like dealing with 24/7 Flat Earth Discord, or pretty much every other circle, the thing that people find it hard to let go of is the loose use of the term science. And it's unfortunate because that's exactly where the virus out there thrives, in pseudoscience and in an epistemology that just includes begging the question or affirming the consequent. And there are a lot of flat earthers out there. And by the way, these, Dave, Jaren, where I can't see any other commonality, the commonality is that they're okay with decrying false science while also saying something that is also not science is science. And that's the problem.
Yeah, like the blind leading the blind.
Exactly. And exactly. And what I was saying,
yeah.
okay, I want
It's
I wanna
attacking. Let me
extract.
just say the statement. It's attacking science, actually pseudoscience, with science, actually pseudoscience. That's what's occurring.
I want to redact the part of giving Nathan credit. I didn't mean to concentrate on that aspect, but I'm glad you clarified it, Nathan. I'm just saying that is, other than that, the app and what Dave's intention is, I'm not going to judge that. But when it comes to what you said, him claiming that he has scientific evidence within his app, that's where he's causing the poison in the lake, if you will, whatever how you'll term it.
So
and that's where I agree
but
1,000%.
my point about pimping out the truth is, I'm pretty sure that Dave knows that he was absolutely not the best person for that debate. I'm sure he knows that. But the thing is, there's no overhead if he's the one doing it, right? And so, what he would rather sacrifice a real good debate, something that would really just knock the socks off of everybody that watched that Andrew Gold show, right? He's willing to give that up so that he can plug his app exclusively and not have someone else involved in it, right?
Yeah, but John,
that's
why can't you do
kind
both,
of the way
John?
that I see it.
But why can't you do both? Even though everything he says I can't stand, but he can come with killer arguments and still sell his stupid app. And one thing you don't got to worry about, Nathan.
Let me answer.
Don't worry about
Let
it.
me
That
answer
is
you, Neil. Neil.
Jiren owns that argument.
Yeah, okay, I got your question. Yeah, because what isn't broken, you don't fix, right? If you're in sales and you have a certain number of sales that is consistently coming in through a certain method that you employ, while you might want to refine it, that might take time away from actually performing the function. So, in other words, Dave Weiss spending time learning about how science proves things, and therefore all the claims of pseudoscience heliocentrism are exactly that, that would take him away from being out on the circuit, performing the numbers game, and getting it out to, I don't know how many people watch that video on that channel. Let's just say it's 10,000 people. Okay? Well, there's going to be a statistical significance to those people in terms of how many apps get sold that day, versus him not doing that and sitting around listening and learning, which takes a significant period of time. Now, he'll be able to weigh that up in his own mind and go, I'd just rather be out on the circuit. Don't need you to tell me about how science works in order to flog my app. Thank you very much. In fact, flogging my app has made me a lot more successful than you, hasn't it, Nathan? Is the response he actually gave. He didn't give it that. I'm paraphrasing that, drastically paraphrasing, I will admit to that. But nevertheless, that's the sentiment.
Well, I think the deeper issue of this, though, is that when we're dealing with mammon, we're dealing with a fiat currency which has no inherent value and is in fact the representation of a debt, right? So it has a negative real value. It's a debt note, and that's what the money is. I will use that
on my wife next time it comes up, Morgile. I'm sure it'll be incredibly successful next time she moans.
Well, right. No, probably not. But what my point is, though, when everybody puts their faith into mammon, that is basically sigil magic, like a false idol, that's a problem, because honestly, our collective faith is one of the most powerful things that we have as a group of sentient beings, sovereign sentient beings, right?
Isn't it right on your dollar bill, "In God We Trust"? They just ascribe it to a higher power. That trust is given to the Almighty, so that you it's just stolen valor, like with science. It's the same thing, but we're off on a bit of a tangent. But yes, I agree with you. As much as I was sarcastic.
Yeah, I mean,
that and nickel will get you back.
Yeah, he recently did like a few like code debates with like Witsit on there. The thing is, people don't like they won't like you, Nathan, right? They won't like Witsit. They want dumb Dave, like where they can win a couple points and Dave can win a couple, and they're just talking. You know, they don't want to get embarrassed.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Dave thinks he wins these debates. I'm telling you, he walks away like he was successful. He won the debate and he pushed Flat Earth further.
Man, he can measure but he is successful. Let's just go back to Arthur B. Flat. As a gateway, there's been so many commenters that, although not negative towards the criticism of Dave, have said, yeah, but you do need that gateway. You do need that soft landing. You do need Dave, and the comparison immediately by all these commenters was to Mark Sargent. Now, I've been hypercritical of Mark Sargent in the past, to him personally, when sat across the desk from moaning about some of the ways he does things, and he gave me his justifications and I swallowed them. Now, Dave did not respond the same way, not at all. What Mark did was incorporate a lot of my critical moanings, let's just call them, into his discussion points. He popped in a few disclaimers and suddenly I was at bay. I didn't mention it again. In fact, I've promoted him ever since and even apologised for things that possibly I could moan a bit further about, but I haven't. Chose not to, because you're like, oh, right, he was receptive to these, what I perceived to be massive issues at the time. He was respectful, listened to every word, regurgitated it back so that I knew he understood, and then he incorporated it into his shows. So every time I dip into a bit of Mark Sargent, he'd have some little disclaimer that I go, oh, thanks, Mark. That just keeps my blood pressure down. Really appreciate it. Enough for me to promote the hell out of him whenever he's mentioned and tell people not to call him shills. Dave, totally different story. Try and tell Dave what science was, and he shut me down and started to be arrogant about how much money he makes out of this.
Well, that's the thing. He didn't call you a scammer, Mark Sargent.
That's
Dave.
why,
I like Mark.
Well, that's exactly it. When I was doing this, exactly the same thing. Telling him what science is, asking him to clarify some of the terms he's using on these shows. He called me a scammer.
So by the capitalist mindset measurement, by the metric of the capitalist, indeed, he is a much more successful flat earther than probably any flat earthers, maybe sans Dubé.
You've got
right?
it. Yeah, you picked up on the overarching point here. That's the bat that Dave has got to beat me with. And that's the bat he's picked up and started using. Because he's correct. So while we can all be critical and say he's not affecting anybody, he's not bringing people to the subject, he's got a metric he can measure it in. It's app sales. Now, as far as he is concerned, and he's not wrong, that is bringing people to the subject. Now, our criticism isn't that Dave's doing a bad job in the same way that Mark Sargent's not doing a bad job at offering the soft landing that we just aren't offering here. Now, we can be jealous about it and moan about the methodology that they could, and Mark did, justify. And so could Dave. There's plenty of things that we haven't been critical of in terms of his dissemination to then go on to vlog his app. And there's only a few minor things that would need tweaking in order for him to have us off his back permanently. But he hasn't chosen to take those things on board. He's braced against them. And now you could call it laziness. Just lazy, can't be asked to learn.
Well, now, if the soft landing is required, I can give that to them. I will concede every point that they have. If they just want to win a debate, I will concede every single point, and they'll still need a flat earth for that.
Glad that didn't make it onto the live show. You'd have never got on his show if you do approach Andrew Gold. And likewise, in case anybody was wondering, when it's like John suggesting he goes on his show, why aren't you suggesting that you go on the show? 2 reasons. One has already been put forth, and I'm glad it was, by Neil. There is no way on God's green earth that he's going to want to discuss flat earth with me if he's even spent 20 seconds listening to this show. Why? Because he knows he'll lose. That's why. So he won't have me on. Number 2, I run a show for profit. That's what I do. In many ways, what Dave does is identical to what I do, and I don't hide that fact. Yes, I am here to make a living out of flat earth. That's what I do. The support that I get from Patreon or PayPal or even the commercial revenue that's tiny from YouTube is as a direct consequence of discussing with passion something I love. That's flat earth. And I am going to turn it into a profit. That's what I do to keep the lights on. I'm not going to be ashamed of that in any way, shape or form, and neither should Dave. But that is not what we are moaning about. there are people out there, sorry to drop you in it, Stinky Cash, who moan because Dave nicked his idea. Tough luck. Put it into commercial effect and you would have been making the money off it, Stinky Cash. Dave saw the idea, saw it being underutilized and turned it into an effective app to bring
I didn't
people to
know
Flat
that.
Earth to commend him and turn a profit with it. How very, very commendable. That's all we've got. Commendation for how well he's done in that respect. Meanwhile, you can be labelled a fraud. Don't need to do much
I
to
didn't know
change
that
that.
either.
You're determined both shows to ruin these lengthy points that I've got to make, Neil, aren't you? With an interjection that could probably wait. Go ahead, Neil.
Oh, you mentioned Stinky Cash, and I didn't know that happened. Sorry. I thought you stopped. What are you taking a breath for?
My bad for needing oxygen. Meanwhile, yes, Stinky Cash created the app and the idea and disseminated that to an audience, which Dave picked up on and then basically robbed. Meanwhile, someone else had already robbed it, just hadn't put it into commercial success. They made it free with the Friend Finder, something particularly highlighted in the sales pitch from Dave on that particular show. That was stolen also. I don't care. People recycle ideas and put them into much better effect all the time. Does it make them bad? Does it mean that they've thieved the idea? Well, if you want to spin it that way, you could. But no, you can't when somebody's actually made a success of something you did not. Then it's just tough luck. Do better. Be smarter. Be more... What was the word that Morgal used in yesterday's show? More... Oh, I forgot, industrial. I forgot the word he used. Anyway. Capitalist.
Get good, scrub.
Say again? Good scrub. Right.
It said, get good, scrub.
Yeah, get good. I mean, there's nothing wrong with him turning this into a profit. Likewise, there's nothing wrong with me turning it into a profit. I'd be a hypocrite if I criticised him for those aspects of commercial profitability in Flat Earth. However, someone turning ghosts into it, you can have the same argument for them, but with the background of they're lying through their back teeth and making this crap up to make it entertaining, where we've got the truth to disseminate or potential fraud to perpetrate. That's where the line gets drawn. And you're like, no, let's just not have you left in a position where you could shame all of Flat Earth with your lofty, profitable position that you found yourself in. You need to refine your arguments as a representative of me. By stereotype, you are my leader. And you don't have to take that on board or even accept it for it to be a fact in the mind's eye of the public when you're on all these shows. So all we're asking is that the argument gets refined so that we don't look like idiots. Not to newbie green guy, normie Joe, or whatever, who's watching Andrew Gold, who doesn't know anything about the subject. To him, this might be enticing enough to buy the app. And that's the only metric it's going to get measured by.
Well, hold on. I got a question about not saying anything to Andrew Gold about the soft landing. Should I give Andrew Gold a soft landing or not?
No, I would say you hit Andrew Gold with all the real good facts, man. Because there's 3 or 4 things you can hit him with right off the bat and stick to those points. And of course, they're going to start wanting to talk about satellites and all this other stuff, and you do have to address that stuff. But
oh, I like it. I hate to be disagreeable, but you'll love me for doing it when I do say this. Right. So you may not be aware, but only literally 10 minutes ago, Refracted Curvature was saying, I will concede everything to them. I'll give it them all. And still point out they need a flat plane at the end of it. So he did do that. He went on to, let me get this correct. It wasn't Mr. Sensible. It wasn't Conspiracy Cats. Whose show was it? It was... McToon.
Talking about McToon.
Yeah, he went on McToon's show, Morgal. Refracted Curvature went onto McToon's channel to debate Ruhif, and under the caveat from Refracted Curvature that he would concede every point they had. In other words, this is where I'm disagreeing with you. You're saying, you got to address this stuff. Well, no, I'm going to hand over to John in a minute, who will explain what I'm prefacing for him to go into. Where no, he doesn't need to, and his tact is very different. Hopefully, I'll explain it to you now if he's around. You there, Refracted? I heard you pipe up a second ago.
Yeah. Do you want me to explain it now, or would you?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, please. Yes.
Well, just for an example, the idea of orbits require a plane of reference to even calculate, right? The Earth curve calculator requires the differential between 2 planes of reference, your eye level and surface level. Every notion they have requires Earth to be flat. They've just removed it from their dogma.
And yeah,
That's
absolutely. I
That's
see your
simple.
point, and I
just want to
agree
hear
with you. And
Morgal's
you're
reaction.
right.
Everyone else be quiet. Go ahead, John.
Yeah, no, you're right. But I would also say that there's other ways that I would kind of go with it, because like the geostationary satellites, they say are 22,000 miles away, and they have the power supply of like a toaster oven, and they've been up there for 10, 20 years sometimes, these geostationary satellites.
Okay, well,
And
let me show you how I would deal with that. See, right? Okay, that's fine. So you have these geostationary satellites, which are 90 degrees above my position on a flat plane. And what do you think they're doing again?
What do I think they're doing? Well, okay, orbiting.
He didn't catch what you put down. Just repeat the last statement, refractive curvature. Just listen closely, Morgal. Go ahead, refractive curvature.
So you think there are these geostationary satellites which are 90 degrees above the flat plane we're standing on, and you think they're doing what? Not to you, but to the baller.
Right. 90 degrees, right.
Right, 90 degrees to the baseline. The flat Earth that this entire premise will be based on. Okay, so this is the origin.
Right. I mean, well, so of course the baller's going to say, well, you can just get a tangent from that base point, and that's all you need. Especially if you've got two observers that are only less than a mile apart, making observations of the moon or whatever.
No, if the baseline's curving, it's not an angle. And the tangent that you're going to presuppose is from your eye level to the horizon, and that's where the surface level appears to meet the sky. So just so we're talking about the same thing, where do you get a curved surface in any of that to invoke a tangent?
Well, I mean, we all know that the Earth is curving. Everybody knows that.
No, that's not what I asked. So in terms of your differential between eye level and sea level to invoke the tangent, that's where the invocation of the tangent comes. Okay, but in so doing, where do you get the inference that there is a curved surface when all you're doing is, in your example, measuring from a flat surface, which you call a tangent? Now, your response is say, well, because we already know. Yeah, but where in the actual process do you get the curved surface in that? Do you follow?
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
What's the answer? Where do you get the curved surface from in that process beyond just knowing that it is when you haven't invoked it in the process? The answer is you don't.
Exactly. It's always, of course, we all know that it's assumed.
It's not the assumption of the spherical bit. It's the measurement from the flat bit that we're going to... This is the motorway with the Lamborghini with the guy flying past going, you're going to need a flat Earth for that. That's what John's going through with you. That's what this bit is. It's the cutting it off at the knees by going, let's not worry about how we beg the question once we've measured the angle from a flat reference plane. For a geostationary satellite at 90. Go ahead, refracted. Sorry.
Right. So, or if they want to claim that there's satellites which aren't geostationary, I can't remember what they call that. So you claim there's a satellite which is changing its angle to me with reference to the flat plane I'm standing on as it moves through the sky. That's a problem that they can't reconcile because you don't get the angle for your orbital mechanics without the plane of reference, but they can't have the plane of reference if they're on a sphere.
We're gonna let you in, Morgal, at this point to one more little detail that has taken 3 years to sink in for the ballers, but this is the appropriate moment to make it sink in instantly for you. The tangent that you referred to, right? Now, John's correctly identified that that's the differential between the eye level and sea level. However, they don't have a straight line to anything as of 2020. Their response to the black swan was to reiterate the fact that in their model, you never have a straight line to anything ever. So where you're getting that tangent from would be our response to the ballers, if we're going to laugh at them and, you know, joke about how they debunked their own model when they said it was always refracted. Therefore, no tangent, no geometry. They bit their own heads off when they said it was refracted because they can't get that straight line anymore for the tangent that you argued on their behalf. Do you see what I mean? Refraction actually annihilates all of the geometric claims because they've never got a straight line to anything ever.
At the end of the day, though, there's a lot of the NASA fanboys are still going to walk away from that, just assuming that NASA is still launching up rockets and still putting in satellites into orbit. And my response to that is first of all, they're unnecessary because they've had, you know, the sort of arrays of high altitude weather balloons since at least the 1940s and 50s, at least.
Oh, well, thank you.
Top of that,
thank you so much, David WEISS.
Right. Right.
I have to correct something in a minute.
Well, no. This.
Yeah, hold on. Then Morgal ran out. I was
If they
like,
believe
it's me
that.
being cheeky. Go ahead, Morgal. You ran out your point, then we'll go to Brian.
Well, right. Well, and then on top of that, the geostationary ones, like to imagine that a little RF frequency wave is going to travel through space, hypothetical space, 22,000 miles. And this is a lot of times a back and forth relay, right?
Hold on. I can hear a noise. What's that noise? It sounds like a V12. You're going to need a flyer for that.
Right.
What is it you're saying about the signal itself? How would you get the signal? You're talking about reference to a flat plane again.
Yes. I was going to let you finish, but yes, you're talking about referencing the return angle of that signal, you know, because you got to aim the satellite, right? Or the radar dish or whatever receiver to the plane of reference. So for you to get that signal, it has to be a flat edge.
All I needed was that Lamborghini for me to memorize how to get this into my spiel every time. Just the sound of a V12. I'm going to need a flyer for that. On the highway to the end line.
Oh, where are these satellites at again?
That's what I'm saying.
That was the other point. Sorry, I got that in the middle. I was going to drop that into. Yes. Sorry, where are these satellites again, Morgal?
Well, of course, they're in my imagination at this point, but they're up in space.
Oh, the second law of thermodynamics violation.
Space.
Gotcha. Out in the sky vacuum, leaving us all dead.
Yeah, there's that. There is that.
There is that.
It's so tough. It's tough because you know when you're arguing with somebody that actually believes this nonsense, it's very well, it's like arguing a kid that believes in the Easter Bunny, right? Like you can either just tell them, hey, your mom and dad made it up, or, you know, you can sit there and talk about Rudolph's red nose or whatever, right? I don't know. It's just, it's sad,
Did you
really.
say Witsit?
God.
Did you say Witsit believes in the Easter Bunny?
Good job.
Easter
Bunny? I was going to say, it's a good job. Good job my eldest daughter was never lied to about Santa as she started listening to this conversation. No swearing.
Is it Ether Bunny?
Ether Bunny?
Man, he got me a friendships on friendship yesterday.
Yo, you're pissing me off now.
No swearing.
You're pissing. Yeah, just take them. I mean, you could go the route of orbital mechanics. You're going to have to come out with a presentation on the angles in orbital mechanics there, John. You're going to have to come out with some sort of presentation to show that.
Okay, yeah, that's fine.
Angles.
Number one.
The plane of reference they use? Yeah, I will.
For orbital mechanics specifically.
Yeah.
Right? And,
yes,
and be hyper specific about it. But to kill it quickly, it's the second law of thermodynamics violation. And number two, I'm going to do number two and number three. you're not there to convince the person that you're talking to. It's the target audience. Now, if you come out with air pressure requires a container, everybody and their sister that can fog a mirror knows exactly what you're talking about. So it's going to be all over very quickly and very embarrassingly to the opposition.
Well, now, John, and they were saying that people need a soft landing, and I said, well, I could give them that and concede them everything, and they'd still need a flat Earth.
Right. Well, and I think that there is something to the arguments that we might have sort of got hints of growing up as globetards, right? Because there was a bunch of those too. So definitely the sky vacuum is one, right? Because I remember watching Spaceballs when I was a kid, where they're like, Operation Vacuum Suck, and I remembered even as a kid thinking, God, how is it that space, right? So that's something that never really sat well with me on planet Earth growing up. And there's other ones like that too. So I think you're right. I think those sort of arguments, the ones that we sort of intuitively knew as little youngins, are probably among the best for sure. Yeah.
Mel Brooks, clearly
Operation Vacuum Suck.
Well, he obviously understood the contradiction, right? To come up with those gags and keep them subtle. So you got to admire the genius of Mel Brooks.
Yeah, it wouldn't work any other way. That whole joke wouldn't have worked if there wasn't a dome or some sort of a container.
You said dome. I heard you.
Sure, but
sure,
but the sentiment is that Mel Brooks has worked it in and has got plausible deniability because he's not just exposing fake space. Oh, the gag only works if it's got a dome around it. Who cares if he says dome? It's a big fishbowl around the sphere that is. What was the name of the planet that they comb, literally?
Chlamydia.
That's the one.
What? Chlamydia?
No.
Druidia.
Oh, Druidia. Sorry about that. It's been too many years.
No
We
swearing.
still got Brian left in the wings, by the way.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I completely forgot about him. Sorry. I'm so sorry, Brian. About 20 minutes ago, I put you in the wings and I've forgotten about you entirely. I'm so sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, you said earlier that the ballers don't have a straight line tangent. They have only bent lines since 2020. No, that's because they don't understand the claims of their own model. Their own model doesn't claim to have a bent line of sight. It's that the globe Earth unbends, keeping the line of sight straight to a position or object that would be normally over the curve.
Gotcha.
Well,
I'll take that on the chin. Totally take that on the chin. I should clarify what I'm debunking. I'm debunking an anti.
That's true. I mean, that's true. They don't know it, the poor dumb bastards. They don't know that.
No. He's not telling them. He's telling me. I'm the one that's got to take this on the chin. Yeah, for all my criticism of Dave not prefacing things correctly, I'm now prefacing that I do understand the difference between an anti-flat Earth rhetoric of unbending the Earth at 7/6 of the radius when the physical geometry is not that. It doesn't include the claim. It's an anti-flat Earth claim that I'm actually attacking. I just didn't clarify that. You're right to pull me up on it. I do need to be hyper-specific, Brian. Yeah, thank you.
Incidentally, I am glad that you...
Just 1 second.
Sorry, I'm glad that you mentioned...
Hold on, Morgal. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, they have a straight line, but it's to a refracted position. So it's not a tangent. That's the point. They have a straight line to something that's an optical phenomenon. They may as well have a straight line to an inferior mirage. But no, that's not even it. You can't even say inferior mirage because that's something that is a real world observation. They have a straight line to a mathematically refracted, unbended position.
In the
That's
maths.
what they have.
In the maths
so it's
only.
not a tangent.
But only in the maths. Only in the maths.
Yeah, yes, it's purely mathematical.
So is that
You
why
need to-
they thought they had a
just-
straight line before the Black Swan?
No, they still do.
And then they changed it after that?
No, they haven't changed it. That's what Brian's saying. They haven't. Do you want to just go through that again, Brian?
But they changed the rhetoric. After the Black Swan, they started saying that we don't have a straight line to everything. That's when it changed.
And in so doing, that's what I was disseminating to Morgal, just without the caveat that in so doing, in their argument, the moment they start appealing to straight lines, when they, the anti-flat earthers, have relinquished their own straight line, it leaves them dead in the water because they've debunked their own claim. Now, Brian's pointing out, obviously, if there was a situation where their own claim was left in a paradox, it wouldn't be their claim to begin with, and it isn't. Brian's saying, no, they still do have a straight line, but that straight line is to a refracted position based on how it's unbent in the maths. So they still do have the straight line in the official geometry and rhetoric, but it now exists to an imaginary position out in space that doesn't exist, that doesn't even have a mirage to represent it, because it's an X marks the spot only in the maths, an unbent refracted position that does, to Brian's point, have a straight line to it. Unlike what I made it seem to Morgile when I'm disseminating the anti-flat earth rebuttal when they say it's all refracted, leaving only anti-flat earthers, not the original rhetoric, dead in the water. Hope that's clear.
Yeah, when they say a bent line, they're talking about their line of sight bending around a geometric curve to a position that's normal, that you can't see beyond that. Because they don't understand what their maths is saying is that their globe earth is unbending for you to be able to see something that you can't normally see. That's what their maths actually says.
I didn't understand that until about a month ago either.
And another way of saying unbending would be just making the Earth bigger, which is why they take their radius and put it in an equation and change it to prove the radius that they changed in the first place.
Yeah, well, that's why it should have been obvious, because it's 7/6 of the radius value. Now, because we're so brainwashed into believing that that's a bait and switch into the refraction they describe when they talk about sugar water or what have you, and that's therefore comparable to the 7/6 R value. But what does it actually do mathematically? Yeah, well, as you put it, Chocolate, making it bigger, unbending the Earth, is what's actually occurring in the mathematics. Now, there's no visual diagram that shows you that. In fact, Walter Bislin's calculator takes it one step further and gives you a 3D representation of what refraction actually is.
No, there is. Brian's done it. So this is the one where when you do 7/6R, and this is how they straighten it out, they take the 6/6R with one circumference, which is equivalent to their equator, and they expand the R value. Okay, so it becomes a 7/6 R value. But the land that's represented can't occupy that big a circumference. It only occupies 6/7 of it. That last seventh has nothing there. So they make the circle bigger and bigger. I think if Brian might be able to pull this up, and we can show you how big they make the supposed ball to accommodate for the black swan images. But that's exactly what they do. Now, that inflated ball, anything larger than 6/6, there's a dead zone, I would describe it. Mathematically, there's nothing there. There's no relationship to the map because it's too complicated to do the ray tracing. We're still waiting, Rumpus. Yeah, because that's the way they fix their problem, is to apply varying levels of refraction, but the refraction is applied to the R value to inflate the ball and make it bigger and bigger. And like I say, to virtually flat, if you look at the black swan image. Don't know if you can get that, Brian.
I'll try and bring it up. I've just got a computer up and running here. But yeah, well, what Adam is explaining is that they keep the distance, let's just say, between any two poles on their globe in the 360 degrees, the same distance, but they add on extra parts like wedges into their globe, making their globe bigger, which unbends that part. Let's just say, so the one wedge would be 7/6, two wedges would be 8/6, three wedges would be 9/6, etc. Where you get to the black swan, which is it 400/6 or something crazy like that? So that's what they must do. So you can still have a straight line of sight, because in reality, because the smarter ballers knew, in reality you do have a straight line of sight to something, but it's to something that within their belief you can't see, but you are seeing. So
I remember talking to you about this. But wasn't it that time I started singing "Unbend My Globe"?
Yeah, yeah.
I remember that. Sorry.
Yeah, because
I mean, you
what they
talk
have is a straight line
about
result. You can't call it tangent.
mental.
Ed Morgal.
Talk about mental gymnastics on the side of the Globers. Now, what I was going to say earlier, not to lose the train of the conversation, but I was glad that you had mentioned Stinky Cash, because there's a name I haven't heard for a while, right? Like YouTube constantly unsubscribing me from channels that I've, voluntarily subscribed to. And of course, how the hell are you supposed to remember all the ones that they unsubscribed you from? So, yeah, I'm going to have to. It's been a while, but I'll have to go and check out. Is he still, Stinky Cash, still doing videos and stuff?
Certainly is. Yeah, with his dog,
Yeah.
Stinky Cash.
Yeah. That's a name I haven't heard in a while.
Yeah. Well,
so it was his. So what was his idea? Now I'm not sure 100%.
The Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app was his idea.
Huh. No shit.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry.
As a description. So if I would say, well, what was his app? What was the idea? A Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. So what you've ended up with is Friends Finder, which was a different app called Flat Earth Friend Finder, and Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app. And the combination of the two is now known as the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac Clock app.
So Dave Weiss is not only a scammer now, he's a thief.
That's not stealing.
Fitting.
No.
He's a thief.
No. Did Twitter steal Facebook's idea? No. Did TikTok steal YouTube's idea? No. If somebody implements something that's already in existence and does it more successfully than the original person, that doesn't make them a thief.
When somebody comes with a flat earth debate channel and they steal everything from you, I want to hear what you're going to say then.
Like, more power
He's
to
a
you.
freaking thief.
I'm sure I'm obviously not given the chip shop analogy in a while. If you've got a chip shop idea, you want to put a chip shop somewhere, where do you put it? You've got two choices. You put it in an area that doesn't have a chip shop, because then there'll be people who want chips. Or, alternatively, you put it right next door to an existing chip shop. Which do you think would better your business? Neil?
Not the one next to it.
Absolutely incorrect. The one that would afford you the most success is the one right next door to where people already know to get chips.
No.
Yes.
That can't be freaking true.
Next time you go into an area where there's a restaurant, glance around the local area and tell me how many restaurants you see. And if it's not 5, I'll be absolutely horrified.
He's got a point.
Right. So by the same token, Neil, what do you think in terms of my business, if this is the business that we're discussing in this regard, what do you think the competition of another, by comparison, chip shop, aka Flat Earth Debate, what do you think that will do? Do you think that will afford me more success or less success? Wow, it's like pulling teeth.
Yeah, I mean, unless there was any sort of patents or copyright infringement or like trademark infringement or whatever, then he can't really say that he stole his idea unless there was some sort of like demonstrable intellectual property that he had either worked on with Dave or had like a patent pending on or something like that. Other than that, I don't know. It just seems like sour grapes, right?
Absolutely
I thought
spot
what
on.
Nathan was saying there was that we're all idiots for not opening up Flat Earth's Sun app. And half the work is there. We'll just take half the profit now.
Well, yeah. Well, if you were to be that guy that went, hang on a second, so you're telling me there's a profit to be made out of a Flat Earth app, and you went and designed one that was, I don't know, competing with Dave's, well, then that would help Dave's app do better. Having an alternative would do better for Dave. That would mean more exposure to people looking for a Flat Earth app where they may not have done because they've come across one and go, oh, there's Flat Earth apps. Oh, what else is there? Oh, look, Sun, Moon, Zodiac. It would help him.
Yeah, but then how would you decide which one to pick?
How would you what?
How would you decide which one to pick? Like which one that you should buy?
The fact that you've got a choice.
Isn't it?
That means
you have to try them both.
It's either going to be.
Hang on. What you're describing
it's
is
either going to.
hold on, just one sec more, Carl. Having a choice, what you're describing is having a flat Earth marketplace to choose which app. That sounds fantastic.
Yep. Whichever
like
one's
any
better, I guess, right?
consumer, you try them both out. Which one you like, which one you don't. I don't like this one. I'll
You
use
think
the
of
other one.
subscription services, right? Think of those. Right? Before they existed, you just had TV. And at one point, someone comes along and goes, I'm going to do all this on the download. You just download it as you want it. Yeah, we'll call it a subscription service. You pay a certain monthly fee. Now they're all subscription services. It's all you do. And you just drop one and pick up another, or find the one with the best deal and change when there's a different series of films that you want to watch on a different subscription service. That's how it works, right? Why? Well, because one looked at the other and went, ooh, I like the fact there's a Flat Earth app. I'll do one too. And then someone else goes, there's 2 profitable Flat Earth apps. I'm going to make a third one, and a fourth, and a fifth. And suddenly there's a section, there's a tab in App Store or whatever it's called for Flat Earth, because there's so many of them. I can think of nothing better.
Good plan, Neil. You and Nathan came up with that, so soon we'll see it in action.
Still a thieving bastard to me. Dave Weiss is a con, a scammer, and now a thief.
No, he's not.
He fits the triplicate right there, boy.
No, I can't stand by these claims. They're outrageous. He hasn't stolen anything. You've already had the disclaimer. Did you not listen to what Morgall just said? Unless there's some sort of copyright or intellectual property that's at stake, that's been contracted out between Dave and Stinky Gash, then he's just bleating. He's got no right to call Dave out on something he hasn't done wrong. Dave hasn't done anything wrong in this regard. More power to him. Good for you. I'm glad he's got the app out. Good. Can't give credit where it's due. Not call him a bloody thief.
He's doing a little bit of false
point,
advertising.
to the other point,
He's
like, who
false
are we to say that
advertising.
his is
He's
not
false
the best?
advertising.
Hold on, we've got no tanks and D Rose. I think I heard no tanks
Yeah,
first. Sorry, D.
because I was speaking. He's false
Is he false advertising?
Yes, that's definitely what he's doing. If you want to say being a product that he's commercializing, you know.
Wrong with that?
Yeah, to the other point though, like who's to say that's not the best app? If there's no competition, why would he even try to make the app better? There's no competition.
Precisely.
At all. He's cornering
Exactly.
the market. That's crazy.
Exactly. If you want to, I say people all the time about the YouTube channel, the content on the YouTube channel. You don't think it's very good? Do it yourself. Do it better. You don't like Dave's app? Do it better. But I'm not saying that. I'm saying this is his app. Here's how he sells it. It's fraud. He hasn't got scientific validity to anything he claims with proof. Proof, look up the definition of that. He said the word. There's no doubt what he's doing is fraud. Is that me saying he shouldn't be commercializing Flat Earth? No. Is it saying that he's stolen Flat Earth app from something? No, definitely not. Am I saying I don't like his app? No, definitely. I took part in it until I recognised that he was disseminating fraud on a lot of channels and calling me a scammer. Then I told him to get lost and take my stuff off his
earlier,
show.
a minute ago, the question was raised, how do you choose, which app? Like, which app do you choose? And of course, the simple answer is you choose the better one, right? But then there's also, so I'll just tell you a little anecdote about a study that, and I couldn't tell you the quote, but basically the gist of it was people preferred Pepsi over Coke in a taste test unless the Pepsi was presented to them with Coca-Cola labeling and the Coca-Cola was presented as Pepsi labeling. Then people preferred Coca-Cola, whichever one was presented in the Coca-Cola labeling, right? So there's sort of anecdotal evidence that suggests the Coca-Cola marketing was somehow much better than the marketing of Pepsi, where people would actually prefer the taste just based on the Coca-Cola label being on it. And so with that being said, there is definitely power in marketing. And, if you're going to be doing a debate to plug things like the app, hell, maybe we should start our own app. And the end result can only be more choices for the end consumer and a better app at the end of the day, right? Because of competition.
Precisely. The quality goes up if the competition goes up. So the chip shop on its own, that's established its own customers, it's got hasn't necessarily got, they might have, but you know what I mean, in my hypothetical example, there's nothing holding them to a high standard. However, when Nextdoor sets up the chip shop, the person that's moaning is the one with the existing app, right? That I might as well just appeal to Dave in terms of a sympathetic position to take. Yeah, the chip shop, by comparison, which is Dave's app, the only one in existence in this example, is going to be fuming that there's someone else coming that takes their customers away, because there's an existing customer base that comes through their door in its entirety. Next thing you know, that's halved as far as they're concerned. Now, long term, that won't actually be the case, but in this example, you can understand that the original chip shop's going to be fuming. What's the other end result? Well, the other end result is the standard goes up. Because how is the new chip shop going to stop people going to the original chip shop? By offering either a better standard or a cheaper price. Well, that will either lower the price of the original chip shop's chips or increase the standard and the quality of the original chip shop chips. Either way, whoever's off mute who's off mute? No, thanks. Oh, someone's muted him. Either way, the standard improves, or the quantity that you get for the same amount of money in this example. But the point is that it benefits the consumer. Now, you're going to take your sympathy route and go, oh no, he's stolen the idea to put a chip shop on that street. Thief, as Neil would say. I would go with no. I would go with the consumer's going to do better out of this, and I would applaud the original chip shop, the new chip shop, and the standards that will be improved as a result, and the increased customer base that they will inevitably get when that becomes Chip Shop Street, because 3 more set up in a week, and then there's nothing but chip shops. That happened in Birmingham, right while I was living there. The Indians moved in, one sets up a curry house and starts cooking curry. Before you know it, there's an entire mile of curry houses on one street.
That's true, though. You can't, like over here, I don't know if it's like that over there, but over here, like if there's a McDonald's, you could be damn sure, like on the same block, there'll be a Wendy's, there'll be a Burger King. All of them will be hosted up on the same block.
Yep.
Or at least within a two block radius. Always.
And that's the thing, when Morgar's talking about having a unified outlook, when you have that, which is to say the standards will be kept to a higher standard, as opposed to you colluding with each other and just saying, no, we're gonna rig the prices as high as possible so the customer's screwed, for the sake of argument, like anti-competitive behaviour on a much, much larger scale. But if you are at least sympathetic to your competitor, everybody does better. If you're moaning about how crap Wendy's are from McDonald's, number one, it looks bad on you. And number two, it's going to be to Wendy's detriment. Now, if Wendy's just turns around and says McDonald's has got rats, eventually all the customers just get driven away from that area. That's all that happens. Whereas if it's true and there is rats and both Wendy's and McDonald's go, we've got a rat problem, better sort this out, or all of our customers will all bugger off. So together we need to sort this out so that we're not fraudsters. Because this is this is the flat Earth quarter. Every single elongated point today and yesterday has been spoiled by Neil. Go ahead, Neil. Obviously, the middle of my sentence was not me taking breath. I didn't take a breath. But go ahead, Neil.
He wanted that last 20%. He always does.
Dave Weiss don't have rats. He has snakes.
Well, thank you for ruining the point by taking out of context my analogy. So very worth it, that was, Neil.
You gotta love Neil.
I don't know why you think you freaking patting this guy in the back like he did some big freaking thing. You forgot he's got a bloody knife in his freaking hand.
Yeah, you're that
Holy
Italian,
shit.
Neil, you're that Italian restaurant moaning about the Indian restaurant across the road for them all being dirty and not having enough hygiene and running out into the street with a bloody meat cleaver driving every customer away. That's what you're doing right now. Me, I'm going, no.
Give a shit about it.
Neil's the guy with the gun.
To you personally.
Neil's the guy with the gun
really
shooting off in the air.
That just adds to his freaking scam and shit. I'm talking about what he's done to you personally. Maybe one day you'll freaking realize it.
Maybe one day you'll realize that this is bigger than me and Dave. Maybe one day you'll realize that you are that guy in the street with a meat cleaver right now, and that everybody watching is looking on in disgust.
Good.
All we need to do is create a competitive app and then get a boat.
Yeah, it really does like not remind me, but like kind of aggravate me in a way. Like to what people will stereotype like a flat earther. Like, well, then you go do all the math. You go do this. No. It's almost like flat earthers are still like, you know, when they complain about Dave's app, still saying, well, somebody needs to do all the work for me. This is not good enough. Like, as you lay back all lazy, asking daddy government to go make you a better app. It's kind of gross.
Yeah, I love that. You should XYZ on this platform. Should I? All right. Should you not do that since it's your idea? Oh, no. You with all your knowledge, you need to go and do that. And I'll do whatever the hell I like. You worry about you, mate.
If people have great ideas, do it, make money, and then support us with that money. Woo! Win-win.
No, that's not what they want. They want to say, you go do it. And then if you did go do it exactly as they demanded you should do it, because that's in your best interest, they'd want credit for it afterwards. Now, that's why people throw that back at us in this regard with Jaron and Witsit and Dave, where they're like, no, them particularly personally back at us. You just want our massive subscriber base to bolster you in your YouTube career because we're the ones with the numbers and you're not. No, that's not the case here. In this instance, we want you, because you, by stereotype, do, whether you like it or not, represent this community, whether we like it or not, to do better. That's all this is about. Now, to further enforce that fact, when I talk about them taking ownership of these arguments, like Neil highlights, that he has to take ownership of the arguments when he puts them out there, so that they're not combating it with, that's just a quantum eraser argument when you talk about, or just a 10th man argument when they're talking about elevation angles or sky vacuums. No, it's your argument. You don't need to give anybody credit. I mean, you have to accept the inevitable loss if you fail on your ass with it and don't understand it. And you can't inevitably blame me if you fail on your ass with it, because it's, quote, a Nathan Oakley argument, or just a Nathan Oakley argument. You've got to take ownership of it, which means I automatically have to relinquish any credit I could take or demand by saying, no, once you argue that, it's yours. You have to take ownership. You have to fight it. And if somebody refutes it with refraction, you have to know how to get around it and explain how that relinquishes their base claim. But if you can't blame me. But if you win, you don't have to credit me either.
It's reality's argument. We don't have to give it a name. It's just reality.
Right on. And with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's after show possible. And of course, a massive thank you to all of you in either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams for hopefully smashing the super chat, liking, commenting, sharing, subscribing, hit me up on PayPal, and all that good stuff. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!